Welcome back to another FPL reaction stream. Why do I do these on Saturday? Well, because the people just love watching on a Saturday night, and it seems like, there's not much really to talk about in FPL, or at least there aren't that many streams going on, and yeah, we can have more fun, chill a little bit. There is no deadline to kind of worry about, but guess what? My FPL team is still not looking particularly great, but there is a small green arrow on the cards with Pedro Porro, aka Pedro Weed, coming on for Mr. Cole Palmer, who missed out yesterday after picking up an injury in the warm-up. But Gyökeres scored a brace today. Let's not even talk about Ollie Watkins as my captain. I have a terrible FPL history with him. So once that deadline locked in yesterday, I just had a bad feeling about it. I don't know why. I was so bullish about Watkins all week, and unfortunately, I got that wrong. But at least with the predicted lineups, I got a lot of it spot on. With Arsenal there, 11 was completely spot on. Leeds United, I think, was 10 out of 11. A few other teams as well, 9 or 10 out of 11. So there you go. Just tune into my deadline streams, have fun, enjoy the ride, see my captaincy picks. I think Cole Palmer would have been brilliant yesterday against a terrible West Ham side. Graham Potter might even be a candidate for the first manager to be sacked this season. I mean, who even knows at this point? But people were obviously on the Sunderland wave after that 3-0 win in Gameweek 1, and they lost 2-0 today against Burnley. So Dubravka with 6 points on my bench, but at least Pedro Weed has 5 points coming on for me, but it's not looking good. And I think not captaining Salah will be a massive regret of mine. And of course, if I captained the other forward in my team, I would be really happy right now with my score, and it would be a monstrous rank rise. But at the moment, only up by 500,000 places. I've got Murillo playing tomorrow against Crystal Palace, Gakpo and Salah against Newcastle, but I'm really hoping the Egyptian is quiet there. In Dye facing Brighton, that is last chance saloon for him. I might even sell him before that game takes place by going to Kudus, who is expected to rise in price tonight. And of course, Ezri Konsa was suspended for Game Week 2. He is now available against Crystal Palace at home in Game Week 3. But I started Reinildo Mandava. What an amazing pick, Dylan. And at least Mark Guiu got an appearance point off the bench, but ultimately, it hasn't been a great start for me. Looking at the positives, of course, I bought Gabriel to replace Frimpong, and I was heavily considering going for Nuri, who is subbed off after 20 minutes or so against Tottenham Hotspur in their 2-0 loss. Can someone explain what it is about Man City? They always lose to Tottenham Hotspur, it seems, at the Etihad, but when I really want them to actually lose and for Tottenham to get a result, no, it doesn't happen. But anyway, let's not even talk about that, actually. Let's talk about FPL teams. I'm going to go into your questions and all of that good stuff. And yeah, just be sure to like the video, subscribe, hit the notification bell, all that good stuff. And there are many links in the description. My Discord server gives you updates on everything you need to know for FPL, all the lineups, goals, assists, bonus points, you name it. Even the price changes, which take place around, 2:30 AM in the UK? At least until October. That's when the clocks will go back and yada, yada, yada. Then it'll be 1:30 AM, but it's all covered in my Discord server. And there's also my Blue Sky, my Instagram, Twitter, and there is my Spotify. Leave a 5-star review there. It goes a long way to supporting the channel. And thank you to those that have been tuning in across all my social media platforms and for my UCL Fantasy and FPL content. But let's get straight into your questions. There are plenty of comments already. And Easy says, my first team got 44 points. 3 players to go. Aina, Salah, Captain, and Sarr. Yeah, that's a good number of points. Only 3 left, though. I'd be slightly concerned, but I can't really talk. I've only got 3 players myself. 4 players. Yeah, and at least Salah's a captain. That could technically count as an extra body. So you're in a good position. You should easily get to 55 plus. I think you'll get to 60, actually. Maybe even a little bit closer to 70. My second team... My second team got 22 points. 5 players to go. Yeah, your first team, it's safe to say, will outscore the second team, even though you've got the numerical advantage, of course, with your backup squad. But yeah, just to say Easy, some people don't like the way you approach FPL because they just think, why do you have 2 teams? 1 is enough, but there you go. A lot of top player injured. Yeah, well, Cole Palmer yesterday and Saka. Yeah, I think that is obviously one of the big talking points of this game week. Saka, the star boy, and obviously on the thumbnail today. Yeah, Arsenal going into Liverpool with potentially Saka out. I don't think he's going to play there, with a hamstring problem, and Martin Odegaard, who I think had a shoulder issue. Yeah, I mean, it's typical Arsenal, right? They go top of the league, they win 5-0, they announce Eze, everything is hunky-dory. Oh, wait, 2 of your best players are injured in such a crucial game against Liverpool. But there you go. Arsenal have to find a way to adapt. I think these new signings like Madueke and Eze could help Arsenal potentially cover for these players, but yeah, it's still not the same thing. You'd rather have all your best players available. And of course, Liverpool are without Frimpong as well. This game saved my defence. Borro, Senesi, Gabriel, Calafiori and Petrovic. That is an incredible defensive line for this week. I would have concerns longer term, especially with the double up in the Arsenal defence against Liverpool and Man City over the next 3 game weeks. And you've also got a double up in Bournemouth. And fair play, they finally beat Wolves at home, the first time in 10 years, but it was only just, despite them going down to 10 men. And yeah, I would have some reservations about that, but Borro is amongst the best defenders in the game, I think, and Gabriel, the same thing. I would still urge caution with Calafiori. He has been brilliant so far with 25 FPL points, I believe, but I think over time, Lewis Skelly will get plenty of starts, and Calafiori, unfortunately, is injury-prone. Yeah, well, easy. I've said this before with Club World Cup Fantasy as well. There is an element of skill with FPL, so I don't agree that it's all about luck, but the vast majority of it is down to that. It's more about fortune than skill. I mean, whether you think it's 60-40, 70-30, 80-20, it's completely up to you, but ultimately, you do need some luck to finish in a really good rank and also just have things go your way to finish top of your mini league and stuff like that. But what I try to do is, you know, give you my opinions about the best FPL assets in every single position, the best value players, the players who are going to start most likely, and give you the best chance of getting into lucky positions, so to speak. But ultimately, you need something to go your way. 15 FPL managers, triple captain Timber. How many were actually first teams? I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of them had second squads and they triple captain Timber for the Bants. Barbary Corsair says, last week was Frimpong, this week is St. Nuri. Yeah, and in the midfield, 2 in the same week, Cole Palmer and Saka. And I'm not sure how serious Palmer's injury is, but I think Saka will be out for the next couple of weeks, and it wouldn't surprise me if he's back by game week, 4 or 5? I just don't see him starting against Liverpool now. Mick DC says, I was going to go Pedro as captain, but decided to go Watkins. Yeah, look, sometimes when you kind of look at things like, oh, Watkins has an amazing record against Brentford, he's going to return, mummy. I'm so happy. Well, yeah, Watkins, I don't know what it is about him. He always finds a way to disappoint me. If I need him to blank, he's going to return. If I need him to do well, he's going to absolutely take the piss. So, yeah, Joao Pedro never scored against West Ham in his career, not even an assist. And he got 1 goal and 2 assists yesterday, so fair play to those that went there. And Joao Pedro is currently the most transferred in player heading into Game Week 3. So, as I talked about in Game Week 1, my main advice to people is don't wildcard early, and also don't jump to conclusions so quickly. Just be very patient and give your assets time to breathe, because otherwise you'd be selling Joao Pedro to Chris Wood and you see a massive swing against you. Let's see how Chris Wood does tomorrow, of course. But yeah, Joao Pedro was brilliant yesterday and West Ham were absolutely shocking. Meza Ozil says, let's go. Ja Gunners ja. Let's celebrate a little bit because, yeah, I think today was a little bit mixed bag after the injuries. DS says, hi Dylan, rough week so far. Haaland captain was bad. Don't have Joao Pedro, and for some reason put Guiu first on the bench instead of Van de Ven. Do you have an idea on when your wildcard? I've got a rough idea, and it was discussed in my chip strategy video, which you can see on the channel very easily. My kind of rough timing would be Game Week 8. I'm not even ruling out Game Week 13 when Man City have a nice fixture swing, and maybe I'll triple up on the Citizens, but I think Game Week 8 would be a nice time to do so. That's around the time that Arsenal have a nice fixture swing in Game Week 7, and I think it's also a nice sort of point and balance because you've also got the AFCON transfers in Game Week 16, so when you look at Game Week 13, for example, I actually prefer using it a little bit earlier so you can fully maximize the transfers beforehand and the fixture swings, and then you've got that sort of safety net with the additional transfers by Game Week 16. So I'm looking at a Game Week 8 roughly, which is what I did last season, albeit it wasn't particularly great. Delary Roberts says, Watkins to Gyökeres before the price change. I mean, I said this last week. I said, keep Watkins. I was wrong. I hold my hands up, and when I get things wrong, I say it. I still think Watkins will outscore Gyökeres over the next 4, but yeah, it's tough for me to say that after Gyökeres scored a brace today, and Watkins did absolutely nothing against the Brentford side, who were awful in Game Week 1, but football is very funny at times and unpredictable, and Aston Villa haven't scored a goal this season. Surely they'll do so in Game Week 3, but Crystal Palace isn't an easy opponent. I would keep Ollie Watkins for now, but maybe very soon he'll be on the chopping block. I'm not going to deny that. LLJ says, I'll take my points so far, 37 plus the bonus points later. Yeah, if you want to check out how many points you have, go to the website livefpl.net, because the points you see on the left-hand corner of your screen is with Pedro Porro coming on and the impact of those extra 5 points to my FPL squad, because if you look at my starting 11, I've only got 33 points. Ugh, that is... Brother, ugh, what's that? What's that, brother? But at least I got a few points off the bench. I mean, that's something. But I think Cole Palmer would have been absolutely sensational yesterday against that West Ham defence. Got Salah, Ekitike, Cunha and Verbruggen left to play. I think that's decent. Salah alone could give you 10 plus points, and the others I think are very solid, especially Cunha against Fulham away. Cylindra says, absolute stinker gaming so far with 20 points, Haaland captaincy and City losing. The only hope is I got 6 more to play. Yeah, I think that's a great number, and if you got Salah, I'm guessing you do, and a few others there of decent quality, I think that could change very quickly by the Sunday. But I have to ask you, mate, you're a City fan. What is it with Man City against Tottenham? I mean, just explain, because whether it's Thomas Frank, Ange Postecoglou, Nuno Espirito Santo, they always seem to get a result against Man City, and it's absolutely ridiculous. Well, Django, I am looking at making a wildcard team in a couple of days' time when I have a bit more time to just analyse the games, especially on Sunday. We haven't even seen how the likes of Everton will get on and Forest, etc. So I think the best thing to do is wait a few days, and by the Tuesday, Wednesday, I'll have a wildcard video out, maybe even sooner if that's possible. So stay tuned for that. But yeah, if later on there's a demand for it, I might make a rough draft, but it will be rough, and ultimately it will be much better in a few days' time. One last chaos before international break. Look, as long as I've got a green arrow heading into the international break and a decent sort of position, I won't really mind too much. But yeah, it's not a great start to the season. I think I was around 800k this time last year, but this is a terrible, terrible position at the moment. But it is early days. City haven't improved, that's why. Yeah, but even when City were the absolute best, they just always struggle to Spurs. I mean, that's what I don't get about it, because City can get great results against all the top 6 teams, and of course against any Premier League club, but against Tottenham, it's just their bogey team. I think it might just be a clash of styles. I think Spurs just recognise that City are the superior team, and they just play a little bit differently. But Spurs didn't even go for a back 5, which surprised me a little bit, and they still got the job done. Sudindra says, Dylan, you must be buzzing after the Arsenal win and Gyökeres Blaze. Look, yes, I'm happy. Arsenal winning 5-0 obviously gives you a bit of confidence going into Liverpool, but I'm not trying to be negative, but it's just those injuries to Odegaard and Saka, which kind of... There's always something with Arsenal, unfortunately. You just can't, fully enjoy a day with the Gunners, even when things seem so rosy on the pitch and the result. But those 2 injuries could be massive, and it could have long-term repercussions for Arsenal and the title race. But it's still early days, and Arsenal can get a result at Anfield. They're unbeaten against, the top 6 clubs for quite a while, but yeah, Saka and Odegaard are crucial. Best defenders for Gameweek 3. I'm not going to say Gabriel Van Dijk, actually, believe it or not. 8 Nuri, of course, an injury doubt against Brighton. That's also something else to think about. I'd actually say Cucurella's up there. Yeah, Cucurella would be a shout. Obviously got the assist today. Well, yesterday in that 5-1 win. That is a good question. Okay, so I'm going to name 3 defenders, not more than that, otherwise we're going to be here all bloody day whilst I struggle to get to those numbers, but yeah. Cucurella will be one of them. I'd say a Man United defender like Dorgu against Burnley, and if I had to pick a third defender, maybe Lewis Hall if he's available. That's like a rough defensive free. Now, could Newcastle consider Ellen Road? Yeah, they sure could. I know they were terrible today, Leeds United, but I think they'll get plenty of results at home. So yeah, Cucurella, Dorgu, and I'll say Pedro Porro for now. I think Tottenham Hotspur will have a very good start to the season. Of course, they've already got 2 wins out of 2. They're second in the league, but yeah, that would be a rough defensive free for you. Palmer not playing was a blessing in disguise for me, as Van de Ven will now come off the bench and bag me 6 points. It's a bit similar with me. I've got Porro coming on for 5 points, and I was going to captain Palmer, as I discussed in my team selection 2 days ago, but I don't know what it was, but I just had a bad feeling. I thought Palmer's kind of performances in 2025 were quite poor, so I wanted to go elsewhere. Well, I went for Watkins. Let's not talk about that. But at least I got the Pedro Weed. 5-pointer coming off the bench. Well done. Upa says, I will wildcard in Gameweek 4. So in the next Gameweek, I want to take -4 points and grab points. Defense is locked. Mids are Palmer, Gakpo, Reinders, Cunha, Sarr. And the attack is Pedro, Haaland, Watkins. I think that's a good attacking line. And I said this, by the way, with Reinders, he was highlighted as a purchase in my transfer tips. But I did say, don't buy him against Tottenham. Get him in Gameweek 3. I think that's where Reinders will start to show more of what he's about, like he did against Wolves. But there's just something about Spurs that Man City just can't really deal with. And it was a 2-0 loss for them in the early kickoff today. And yeah, that obviously will put some people off City for the title race. But it's early days. You can't draw too many conclusions. And, you know, one week you might say Liverpool, the next City, the next Arsenal, then United. Just let's calm down a little bit. Gyökeres was not good. I disagree. I think he had a good performance. And obviously, he scored a penalty. He's going to be on the penalties, as I mentioned, throughout the summer. I'm not surprised about that. Of course, Saka and Odegaard weren't on the pitch, but several reports by Swedish journalists indicated that Gyökeres is on penalties anyway. So I do disagree that it was just a lucky return and he wasn't good. And ultimately, whether it's Gyökeres or Haaland, these players are goal scorers. They're not actually like, you know, technical players that you're going to be like, wow, they're amazing to watch, like Thierry Henry or Isak. They're just there to score goals. And whether you like them or not, they're going to bag a lot. LLJ says Arsenal played Leeds. They were always going to win that game, and Leeds' defense was awful. Yeah, but no one, or very few people, expected a 5-0. I said 2-0. I thought Arsenal would keep a clean sheet. I got Gabriel because of that. But yeah, Leeds were even worse than I thought. And Arsenal have Liverpool next. Exactly that. So despite that massive win, yeah, those injuries to Odegaard and Saka are very worrying. I'm not going to lie. I'm not trying to be, you know, negative or fearmonger, and ultimately you've got to get on with it and adapt to these injuries and stuff, but it's just not an ideal situation to be in. So ultimately, would I rather Arsenal have won 2-1 and Saka and Odegaard are still available? Probably, but then Arsenal wouldn't be top of the league, at least momentarily. Joao Pedro in for Watkins. That would be tempting after this weekend, I'm not going to lie to you, and Watkins and Aston Villa have been very poor so far this season, and it goes to show that pre-season isn't the be-all and end-all, because Watkins was incredible in those friendlies, and look at what he's doing now. I'd probably keep Watkins for the time being, but yeah, Joao Pedro is even cheaper. I think what it ultimately would come down to, though, is what would you do with the extra 1.5 million, and that could soon be 1.4 million, because I think Joao Pedro will go up in price in the next couple of days. Surindra says 3:20 a.m. here in Malaysia. Not going to lie, it's 8:40 here, and it's very, well, I just feel tired. But hoping Murillo, Dorgu, Anderson, and Dewsbury Hall perform tomorrow. Yeah, some decent players there. I think United could keep a clean sheet against Fulham, so Dorgu would be good in that sort of situation. Anderson, is that Joachim Anderson? Yeah, less keen on him this week, but ultimately you've got some good players there like Murillo, and I think you could get a decent end to the weekend, but yeah, ultimately without Salah, that could be quite difficult. Okay, so Jackie Chan is on the Gyökeres agenda. Mate, he scored a brace. Calm down. He can't even assist. First goal, Leeds' defence was weak. Well, you can only play what's in front of you, right? Richarlison scored a brace against Burnley. I didn't see anybody complaining, so I think that's... I'm not sure who you support, but that'd be interesting to see. Selling Gyökeres next game week. Well, I always said that Gyökeres was a one-week punt because facing Liverpool, Forest, City and Newcastle, whilst Gyökeres can score against all of them, his ceiling won't be as high on paper compared to Joao Pedro, Ollie Watkins, dare I say, and of course Erling Haaland, to name a few players there. Eduardinho says Gyökeres will struggle against better defences. Look, it's early days for him as well. Let's not forget he's only trained for around 2 weeks with the Gunners, and I think he played well today, but yes, Leeds were terrible. I'm not going to deny that. Their goalkeeper, their entire backline was pretty woeful, but I think Gyökeres will just get goals. Whether it's against Liverpool, he might get a jammy goal next weekend. Inshallah, whatever you want to say. Hopefully he does do it, but yeah, I think Gyökeres will still do well against the best teams in the league. people were kind of running this narrative that, oh, he only scores against Boa Vista and their mums and cousins. Well, he did it against Porto and Benfica. He had 9 goal contributions in 15 games against 2 of the best sides in Portugal. He scored a hat-trick against Man City. So I think people need to give him time as well. Obviously, against Liverpool, you don't expect him to get a brace, but I wouldn't put it past him, especially in the other games like Man City and Forest. So Gyökeres isn't really a priority sell for people, but I always said from the beginning of the week, he is a one-week punt against Leeds United to target that fixture. Gunnar Home Linterman says, hi Dylan, are we selling Palmer? I'll be honest, mate, I don't know the extent of the injury, so right now the best thing to do is hold and wait for more information, even if you see some price changes elsewhere. I doubt that, with the exception of Salah, it would really be that important, because ultimately, whether you go to Saka, if he's fit, and all these other players, they're going to be cheaper than Palmer anyway. So the best thing to do is hold right now and wait for more information, which I don't really have to provide right now, unfortunately. If you were to sell him, I mean, who do you even go to right now? Bruno Fernandes maybe, or Mateus Cunha facing Burnley at home next week. The fixtures aren't particularly great until Gameweek 5, but I think Fernandes can still do very well. He's fixture-proof. Even Cunha and Mbeumo are also that sort of player, and the fixture isn't going to be that important. They can still return against the best clubs in the country. So I think a United player might be on the cards if Palmer is injured for Gameweek 3. Lesson of every game week, player that performs that game week not always performing. Well, they're humans, they're not robots, right? Even Erling Haaland, people are saying, oh, why do you build a free hit team without Haaland? Look, I mean, my original free hit squad, which I talked about a few days ago, had Gyökeres, Watkins. Yeah, that was a flop. But also Joao Pedro. So sometimes you can't look too much into one game week, and that's why we've got to wait a little bit to draw better conclusions and have more data and observations to back up our FPL choices. At least you have Pedro to come on. Yeah, I'm looking at the positives, definitely, but it's the Watkins captaincy that has really stung me this week, and even starting Sanchez over Dubravka, it's not really the worst thing in the world. It cost me 3 points, but yeah, I think Salah could go off on Monday night, and that's the concern. So yeah, Bullseye, I would keep Cole Palmer for now. Yusuf says Chelsea just look way too good. I'll read the rest of your question and offer my thoughts. I'm thinking of buying Enzo and Estevao/Neto. Spurs played great. They'll be tough to beat. Arsenal will go on a winning streak now that Eze joined, but tough fixtures. Even with Arsenal, I just think it's way too early to judge, to be quite honest with you. And Chelsea were incredible yesterday. I'm not going to take any credit away from them. They deserve it. But let's also look at West Ham. I mean, they lost 3-0 to Sunderland in Gameweek 1. That's already like alarm bells are ringing. Are they on the beach already? And then you look at Sunderland now. They lose 2-0 to Burnley. So I would definitely urge a bit of caution in terms of, oh, we need to triple up on Chelsea now. And in the FDR, they're actually ranked quite lowly by the likes of Fantasy Football Hub. So I'll talk about that very soon. Spurs definitely played well. They deserved to win. I knew that they would score their first shot on target, but ultimately they were efficient. Man City had a few chances or half opportunities, and they didn't really take them. So I think Spurs definitely deserved to win the game. They defended very well. And we saw elements of this against Paris Saint-Germain, albeit with a different formation. Oscar says, is it a good time to bring in Newcastle defenders and Spurs attackers now? On paper, it would be, but I think Leeds United will score against Newcastle next week. Eduardinho says, I got 31 in Gameweek 1, hit the panic button and wildcarded in Gameweek 2, left out Collins and Saka, bought in Haaland, Reinders and Aït-Nouri. That is unfortunate. With Aït-Nouri, for example, he does have a record of being injured, but of course, last season that wasn't the case. He started 37 games for Wolves. And Erling Haaland, we still backed him to do well. I actually said he was more of a guarantee for points than Palmer and all the other options this week. I thought he would score and get like 2 bonus points against Tottenham, but I was wrong. He didn't even do that. And ranking him second in my captaincy list was ultimately a mistake in the end. But Saka was first. I think the injury was very unfortunate there. He could have easily got 10 plus points. And Jurrien Timber has been the star of the show with a 21-pointer, I believe, if not 24, which is incredible. Doles Z says, is it worth keeping West Ham players for one more week? Well, Jarrod Bowen, yes, and I said this last week, of course, and he got the assist yesterday. Diouf obviously got an assist as well, but I just don't trust West Ham defensively, to be honest. It's not a priority, perhaps, because you might have Frimpong as well, or Aït-Nouri, who might be the priority sells right now, and there's also Cole Palmer to think about, but yeah, I think it's probably worth keeping some of these West Ham assets, particularly Jarrod Bowen, and we just know, based on the first 2 game weeks, we're getting some really massive highs by Sunderland, then massive lows. I'd be very careful about certain teams and going all in on very unreliable squads this season. Yeah, I'm keeping faith with Watkins, but I'm not captaining him again. That's it. That's the last chance saloon. I gave him another chance. He just absolutely pissed the bed. I don't know what he did, but Ollie Watkins, I don't know what it is. I've got a bad history with him in FPL, and sometimes that plays a part. Mick says, thinking of free hitting next week, I just don't trust Arsenal or Liverpool players when they face each other. Well, they are two top teams. Liverpool have the advantage being at home, and I think Arsenal will miss Odegaard and Saka if they do indeed miss out. I think Odegaard has a chance of starting, but Saka, I just don't see him being in the squad, let alone playing close to 90 minutes and starting based on the injury. It seems like he wanted to be taken off and he just couldn't continue at all. So that is a shame for Arsenal, and obviously a boost for Liverpool there as well. Yeah, I think Graham Potter could be sacked. Could be the first one of any manager this season, which I didn't expect after pre-season, to be honest. I don't think West Ham were that bad there. 76 points last week. That's a good score. But then 13 points now. That is a disaster class. It goes to show how volatile FPL can be, especially at the beginning of the season. So ultimately, it doesn't mean you need to wildcard in Gameweek 3. Let's see how things turn out for you, because you might have 5 or 6 players left there. So Jackie Chan still with the Gyökeres agenda. Calm down, mate. I know you said this a few minutes ago, but don't go anywhere. Any info from Palmer? No. I'll try to get a quote or something, but I haven't seen anything about Cole Palmer. And ultimately, in terms of a definitive update about Palmer being available in the next game, I highly encourage you to just wait a little bit and just have that information, then make an informed decision by the end. But let's see if I can get a Cole Palmer update. I think Enzo Maresca. Oh, let's see. So apparently there was an update today. Let me see if it's not clickbait. It's from a Chelsea webpage. It's probably from the the Enzo Maresca press conference yesterday. So Maresca said Cole in the last 4 or 5 days was not 100%. Today he tried in the warm-up, but he felt something, so he preferred not to take any risks and make it worse. And we will see in the next hours if something's important or not. It's a growing problem. It's already the Palace game. He was not 100%, but he has tried to make a big effort for the club, for the team, for the fans, for my mum. Not my mum, Maresca's mum. No offense to Maresca's mum. Because he's really keen about the team. Tonight he tried again, but it was not very good. So that isn't a positive update whatsoever, but I think the best thing to do is keep him, because you might look at that update and say, oh, he's definitely out for Gameweek 3, I'm selling him, and then he starts and bags a brace. So I think the best thing to do is just keep him and then reassess in a couple of days' time. So that also answers DJ NGEBZ, Dragon Ball Z, that question as well. What are you thinking for moves this week? Well, my original plan was to sell Ndai to Kudus or something along those lines, but if Cole Palmer is out, then he will be on the chopping block, and I'll probably go for Fernandes or Cunha, actually. That would be the most likely transfer for me. I'm going to keep Ollie Watkins, but I'm not captaining him. I'm going to learn from that mistake this week, and I'm actually surprised by how things have transpired in certain games. Man City not scoring, Villa as well. That is the beauty of football, also the kind of ugliness, you could say, in my case, with my FPL picks, but there you go. So for those that are tuning in, I think we've got 300, 400 people tuning in. I can't even speak, but yeah, I appreciate it. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. I just got back after watching the matches, and yeah, I'm not even 100%, but guess what? I'm here offering my thoughts and initial reactions, of course, heading into Gameweek 3 and talking about the weekend's action so far. Some big victories today, and of course, Chelsea set out a statement in that London derby on Friday night, and there's much more to come on the Sunday, and I really can't wait for Monday night between Newcastle and Liverpool. 19 points with just 5 left to go. Dropped from 2.6 to 5.4 million rank, and Captain Watkins too. I had so much faith in him to the extent I cancelled my initial plan of replacing him with Gyökeres. Look, I'm not going to deny it. I was bullish on Gyökeres this week, but I was also really backing Ollie Watkins, and I didn't think it was worth selling him. Now, the only way that kind of pays off is if Watkins does what he should do over the next 4 or 5 game weeks until 7, when Arsenal have pretty poor fixtures, and Watkins just wipes the floor with Gyökeres. But at the moment, it's not looking good for us, I'm not going to lie. Hopefully you have a great end to the week, 1 Celsius, but yeah, that is not a great score. I would not buy Gyökeres before Liverpool. Now, that's not to say I don't think he can't score against them, because Gyökeres is fixture-proof, but I always said from the beginning, he was a one-week punt against Leeds, and after that, you're not going to expect braces and hat-tricks against the best teams in the country like Man City and Liverpool. Gyökeres captain, bro. Can't believe it paid off. Well, surely you can, because he's playing against Leeds, and Gyökeres is an elite goal scorer, but fair play. I wish I had Gyökeres and captain him. It would have been not even double, it would have been triple insulin? No, that's not the right term. It would have been like a triple dopamine rush. What am I saying? Because obviously, yeah, the club, the player, FPL points, just enjoy everything. Well, no, I captain Ollie Watkins. Well done, John. Gyökeres is saving your gimmick so far. I wish I had a Gyökeres to save me. Instead, I have an Ollie Watkins to ruin things. Ollie Wankings is the new name, I think. 67 points, 5 to play. Been so fortunate from 35 points last week. Things change very quickly in FPL, so enjoy the points there, Kevy. Well deserved. AL Short says, I think this game week I made the right choice by using the bench boost, but I captained Watkins. Well, if you got a decent return from the bench boost, then at least that compensates for the disappointment from Ollie Watkins. Andrew Barton says, my score is so bad this game week, I've not even checked it. I've been there, mate. Sometimes when I'm doing that bad, I don't even check anything. I don't log out. The FPL website logs me out anyway. But yeah, I prefer not to comment or see or watch anything. I just move on. Sydney says, I have 2 teams, just like Easy99. You can maybe share numbers and exchange ideas. One with Salah, the other without him or Haaland. With the former, I have 37 with Salah captain and 3 other players. With the latter, I have 61 thanks to Gyökeres captain plus 4 players left. Nice. And that goes to show that no one is essential. As good as Salah and Haaland are, and they'll outscore every other player, you can sometimes outperform them or teams with those players. I had double Burnley defense, big risk, big reward. Yes, and I do feel a little bit gutted about not starting Dubravka, but it is only 3 points in the end. Fair play to those that went there. I did talk about this with some people that I would rather go for Dubravka over Sells this week, and I did go for a 0-0 prediction in that Burnley-Sunderland game, but guess what? It was 2-0 Burnley in the end. Well, to be honest, Juniper, I can, in retrospect and in hindsight, which is not really a good thing to do when you're analysing football, because everyone can just be like, ah, you're an idiot. Why did you think this? Well, there you go. I said 3-2 City, so the only thing I got right was the amount of goals Spurs scored. Anish says 53 and 2 more to play. Salah and Anderson. Yeah, great score at the moment, and only 2 left. There's maybe a little bit, but you got Salah left, and if he's your captain, you could technically say you've got 3 players left, but maybe that's a bit woke. Thank you to DJ for the super chat. Very kind of you. If you got a message, then just drop it without a super chat, but I do appreciate that very kind donation, and just a big up to everyone in the chat that is supporting the channel throughout the summer. I've been just going ham with the content. Even on holiday, I recorded 9 videos in 14 days. Just saying, I don't want a medal, even though that would be nice. I think Arsenal should win for once. Thank you, John. Keep up the great work, bro. Very, very kind of you, and hopefully I can see you again in another UCL Fantasy or FPL Deadline stream, because guess what? The Champions League is returning very soon. Streets Won't Forget says, hello guys, I am cooked real hard. I wonder what the context is, but hopefully Sunday is much kinder to you. I got 19 points, 6 players left to play, but already wasted captaincy on Evanosum. I'm quite surprised by that match. I thought it'd be high scoring. So I did say 2-2, and maybe I looked too much into the previous record these 2 teams had with each other, but yeah, I mean, Evanosum and Strand Larsen, I thought one of them at least would score. It looks like Semenyo is the talismanic figure. He is the one to go for in that Cherries attack. But it's early days. Evanosum could still return in Game Week 3, so maybe selling him might be a, not a disaster, but it might be a frustration waiting to happen for you. But yeah, poor points total for you right now, but 6 players left would give you a little bit of room for optimism for Sunday and Monday. Bowen to Gyökeres, not for me. I'd rather keep Bowen for the next couple of weeks. I know Gyökeres was good today. He scored a brace, but yeah, Liverpool away is a different kettle of fish. Rogers to Johnson, not for me, no. If you want to go for a Spurs attacker, it would still be either Richarlison or Kudus at this moment in time, but Johnson does have that knack of being at the far post, tapping in those goals, and he's got a good record against big clubs. Obviously, he scored against Man United in the Europa League final, that doesn't exist, and obviously against Man City today. So let's get into the other member questions and comments. Let's see if I've missed anything. Yeah, Goldhead says Watkins still managed to pick the ball up in good areas, but it's the lack of creativity around him that is the issue. Poor guy. I don't share that sympathy, to be honest, and I didn't watch the full game. I only saw highlights, but I just have a bad record and history of Watkins, and I think that probably was a sign for people who captain him that things were going to go tits up. Highest points this week, triple captain Timber. Is the game rigged? Probably a second account. I'm not hating on him. Maybe he's genuine and stuff like that, but a lot of these people who are like top of the week, even momentarily, they're just pissing around and doing some random shit. Experts saying 1 to 3 weeks. Is that for Saka? I wouldn't be too surprised about that. Thank you to the GOAT. He says Dylan is the best. Thank you. No one else says that. I'm joking. Twan says, is Saka injured? It looks like it. He had a hamstring problem. Normally that's going to be a couple of weeks. I think he'll be available after the international break. So that's a massive miss against Liverpool. We could see him back for game week 4 or 5, but yeah, it's not looking good. Braden says, I watched the game. It's not that Watkins didn't have a chance, but I think it's because the ball didn't reach him very often. Maybe the coach needs to adjust the midfield or wingers. Yeah, and obviously they made a very early change, but you would like to see one of Buendia or Marlon start from the get-go and then offer Ollie Watkins another outlet and another crossing avenue. Even if it's just an inside cross, it doesn't have to be in the air, but just having those kind of nice little passes into the box where Ollie Watkins can tap it home. He didn't really have that service today, so it's a bit unlucky maybe, but Brentford deserved to win, and ultimately Aston Villa have disappointed once more. Yeah, I think so as well. Look, Gyökeres won't be pretty in football terms. He's not going to get you off your seat. I think Alexander Isak, for example, is a more complete forward and dribble and stuff like that. But what Gyökeres will offer is goals, and that's what Arsenal desperately needed. And I think he'll only get better when the likes of Eze come into the fold as well. Adam G says, targeted Leeds and West Ham on my free hit, and it paid off. Fair play. I went with Cucurella, Caicedo, Palmer, Gabriel, Saka, and Gyökeres. Only miss being Palmer. Yes, but you did have Caicedo. I think what would have been the cherry on top is if you had João Pedro, but you can't have them all, even on the free hit. But that's very well played. Obviously, Caicedo scored in that 5-1 win yesterday as well, and he's a DEFCON machine. So with Watkins, I still think he's a hold, but my patience is kind of waning a little bit. I'm not going to lie to you. Look, it's a reaction stream. We're offering our very hot takes and, off the cuff. You just finished the matches and you're, going live and offering your opinions. And Ollie Watkins is someone I don't really like in FPL based on my history with him. Yeah, Chris Wood is a brilliant transfer in against West Ham. It might even be just a case of buying anyone who faces them or Leeds United or Sunderland and stuff like that. Burnley as well. But I wouldn't be selling Watkins just yet. And I know I made that sort of advice for the Gyökeres thing and it wasn't the right call this week, but I still think until Game Week 7, and also taking into account what happened today, I still think Watkins outscores Gyökeres. Just my opinion. James123 says, I'm thinking of selling Watkins for João Pedro. That's perfectly reasonable. I'm more open to that transfer than Gyökeres because João Pedro is even cheaper, better fixtures, and I think Arsenal attackers are more of a purchase in Game Week 7, and also Saka would be a massive loss for Arsenal, especially against a top team like Liverpool. So yeah, once again, Mohammed, not for me. I wouldn't be buying Brennan Johnson. I'd keep Morgan Rogers for now. Anachronism says, half of my heart says to hold Watkins and Larson, and other half says Watkins to Gyökeres or Watkins and Larson to Wood and Pedro. If you were to make some transfers, I'd recommend Chris Wood and Pedro. I wouldn't go to Gyökeres as much as I think he'll do well, even against the top teams. He's not someone you will captain against Liverpool or Man City. There will be better forwards. I think João Pedro will be one of them. So if you were to change some things there in your forward line, go for Chris Wood and João Pedro. Should I sell Saka? Just keep him for a little bit and see if there are any updates. But I'll be honest, I don't think he's back for the Liverpool game. And yeah, we'll probably see him back by Game Week 4 or 5. If that, hopefully he's back very soon. Thank you, John. Keep up the great work, bro. Very kind of you. And hopefully I can live up to the expectations. Bowen to Gyökeres is a no for me, and I'm an Arsenal fan. I'm really bullish on Gyökeres. I said he was one of the best one-week punts for Game Week 2. I will not be buying him against Liverpool. So let's see what else we have. There are a few repeat questions and comments, so I'm not going to go through them for the sake of bomber class and whatever. Insulin had a howler there, Dylan. Okay, my excuse, I guess, is that I don't know. I just came off from the pub, so yeah, I'm not maybe fully 100%. But there you go. I'm still here. Yeah, Champions League draw on Friday on the 28th of August. And after that happens, I'll be talking about UCL Fantasy in more detail. But maybe, if people want to see it, I will do a preliminary draft podcast for the Champions League. Got 59 points of Cunha and Williams left. Yeah, that's a really good score. And despite the fact you don't have Salah, you've got two decent options, especially Cunha. I like that pick for tomorrow. Peter Hunter's Akek says, don't have Salah, but have Haaland. With Palmer's injury, I can sell Palmer to Salah, but I'll need to sell Bowen to a 6 million or less forward for a hit. Should I? I'd keep things as they are for now and just wait and see how serious the Palmer injury is. Maresca's comments from yesterday aren't too positive, but I don't think it's really worth just taking a hit in the dark without that information, because maybe Palmer is available for Gameweek 3. I'd be less confident in Bukayo Saka after suffering a hamstring problem today. So before I go back into your comments and questions, I've answered dozens already. I'm going to show you some different screens which will be referred to in my upcoming deadline stream, which is next Saturday, I believe. Am I correct? Is it another Friday one? I'm pretty sure it's a Saturday deadline, but I'm going to double check because I don't fully trust myself at this moment in time. Yes, it is Saturday, the first one of the season, so that'll be an early... Gotta wake up early for that. But anyway, there you go. So let's go to some different screens, starting off with my mini league. You can still join. All your points from Gameweek 1 will count. The code is WFF0U7. There is an auto-join link. The code is there in the description, so it's very easy to join my FPL league. The same goes for FPL Challenge, which I'll show you very soon. And I do admit, I didn't change Cole Palmer. He was my captain. So yeah, that went tits up as well. With the FDR, if we check until Gameweek 8, Aston Villa are still top. But what are they doing? 0 goals scored. They've lost, obviously, against Brentford today, and they got the draw against Newcastle. Wolves, Spurs, Leeds United, and Nottingham Forest are in the top 5 for the fixture difficulty rating. In the bottom 5, we've got Arsenal, even though they're top of the league. For one day, anyway. Brighton, Burnley, Everton, and Chelsea are also in the bottom 5. That does surprise me with the Blues, because I look at Chelsea's fixtures. I think they could win the vast majority of them. Maybe Liverpool at home, not so much, but I look at Fulham at home. I'd back them to win that game. Brentford away, even United away. So quite surprising, but yeah, there are a few somewhat difficult fixtures in there. If we look at predicted points, Salah is still top with 7.4, and Erling Haaland, the robot who malfunctioned today, has 6.6. Bruno Fernandes, Cunha, and Mbeumo are in the top 5, facing Burnley at home, and one of them could be my Cole Palmer replacement if necessary. Ollie Watkins is 6th, Chris Wood is 7th, Gakpo, Palmer, and Mateta are in the top 10. So with Fantasy Football Hub, do they have a solution for my very average FPL team? Well, according to them, it's a good one. 93% team rating. For the game week, it's 89%, but Cole Palmer could be a massive problem going into that Fulham at home fixture because, yeah, 10.5 million for a player who potentially misses out. Yeah, that is just not going to be the case for me. So if we look at the AI transfers, AI, really? Just think for yourself. They're recommending Joao Pedro to Mateta. I'm not doing that. I'm telling you now, unless Joao Pedro gets injured, there's no way I'm doing that transfer. It's more likely I sell Cole Palmer before the Gameweek 3 deadline. But if you want to see my full plans, check out my team selection video in a couple of days' time before that Saturday deadline, where I'll be going live around 2 hours, of course, before that 11 a.m. FPL deadline for Gameweek 2. With price changes, Semenyo again could go up in price to 7.2 million this time round. Kudus should go up to 6.6, and Reinders is still going to go up in price despite that blank against Tottenham Hotspur tonight, or today actually, because it was early kickoff. Kai Havertz, who's injured, Fulkrug, who's been terrible, another injury to Arsenal in Norgard, just saying, Mateus Nunes, Hato, Lewis Skelly, Akanji, Arias, Alvarez from West Ham, Lafie, Emerson Palmieri, Lisandro Martinez, Garnacho, the Liverpool backup goalkeeper Mamardashvili, or whatever, Mama Mia. He's also going to go down. Trossard, Connor Bradley, Iwobi, Bamford, Sancho, Callum Wilson. The list keeps on going. Surely not all of them will go down. Anthony, Delap, Foden, Guesan, Adama Traore, Yanil, Lavia, Kusanov, Solomon, Lewis Hall. That could be interesting, by the way. Lewis Hall facing Leeds at home. Sorry, Leeds away next week. Oh my god, surely not all of these are going down, but that's what Live FPL.net are saying. Amdouni, Badiashile, Ryan Sessegnon, Sinistera, Pinnock, Mundell, Awani, Verts, Minter, Doku. Okay, I was about to say the SpongeBob meme 2 hours later, because that was a long bloody list. I've not seen that long, pause, for a very long while. Looking at the stats, which I like to do, the most transferred in player going into Gameweek 3 is João Pedro, who, yeah, is a template pick. He got 3 goal contributions yesterday. Wow, what an amazing, insightful, inspiring transfer that is. But yeah, that's the way it is. Semenyo is second, Chris Wood, Richarlison, and Cucurella in the top 5. Even Reinders is up there despite the blank. If you look at the most transferred out, Palmer is top with over 300,000 transfers out. Frimpong is second. Bowen, Wan-Bissaka, and Watkins are in the top 5. So with FPL.team, this is my provisional squad for Gameweek 3 without making a single transfer. According to the website FPL.team, I've got 51.8 expected points. Yeah, I'm not captaining Watkins. Forget that guy. I'd rather captain Salah. So yeah, that does go up to 53.1. I think Palmer is just a little bit higher rated, assuming he's available for that local derby. So I think one of Salah or Palmer, maybe one of the replacements like Fernandes, could be my final Gameweek 3 captain. But yeah, I got it completely wrong with Watkins. I do hold my hands up there. I would start Sanchez over Dubravka. The back 3, I know Gabriel's facing Liverpool away, but he could still be a starter for me. I'd start Borro over Reinildo. Moria would also get the nod. And to be honest, if I had to make a forward transfer, I'd be open to buying Chris Wood against West Ham. So something like this could be on the cards. I downgrade Palmer to, let's say, Kudus. Let's jinx Tottenham. Why not? And then we can upgrade Mark Guiu to Chris Wood. I mean, it's a -4. It's not a great start to the season, but there you go. Then I could bench one of Ndiaye or Reinders, potentially. Yeah, I'd probably go all in on Liverpool anyway. Just, yeah, jinx them at least, get points, whatever. But there you go. That could be like a sort of initial plan if Palmer is out. I think with the captaincy, though, it would be between Salah, probably Chris Wood as well, actually. Yeah, one of those two would take the armband. So yeah, let's put it back on Mohamed Salah. And the expected points is 53.5 with those provisional transfers. Ndiaye on the bench could be a rough one. I want to see how he plays tomorrow before making a full judgment on him, whether I sell him or keep him. That could also be very influential, but it's just difficult to say with only, what, 1.5 weeks worth of data. An FPL challenge, do I even show this? I admit, you know, Kyle Palmer was taken out just before the game started, but I didn't change it. I completely forgot. He was my captain, so that was absolutely terrible. The only play who returned for me so far was Raya, so yeah, uninspired, boring, terrible, horrific, stinker and hooked. Whatever you want to say, I've only got Salah left in FPL Challenge, so somehow I've done even worse in this game than in FPL. Yeah, let's not talk about that again. So with FPL, let's go to that team, which is slightly better. Not really saying much, but there you go. Thank you to Twisted Parky and the other moderators for moderating the chat. It's your job, but thank you very much anyway. I hope we don't replace Santos with Ange. That would be really weird if Nuno Espirito Santo left for Ange Postecoglou. I mean, really strange reports coming out. It looks like Edu, who was at Arsenal beforehand, he has completely fallen out with Nuno, and it seems personal, apparently. That's what the Athletic are reporting. Even the manager was talking about the relationship with Marinakis yesterday, and just really worrying signs there for Forest fans. And I think if Nuno were to go, I'd be quite worried about Forest, at least for their prospects, you know, because with him, they could challenge for Europe again and have a good season. I think without him, even with Ange, yeah, it could be a completely different story. Reinders overrated. Should be transferring him out. No, I still think at his price and below, he's one of the best options in FPL. You've also got Caicedo and Elliot Anderson. But yeah, I would not be selling Reinders right now. He also played a little bit of a deeper role today. City went a little bit more offensive with Cherky, Bob, all playing together with Marmoush and Haaland. But no, I would not be selling Reinders. And it's not like he goes from essential 1 week to overrated the next. I think it's very important to have a bit of, I don't know, coldness when analysing these players. And ultimately, he did well last week against the poor Wolves side. And today, he was ineffective against the decent Tottenham side on the day. Palmer out or just me? I'd keep him for now, wait for more information, but ultimately it all depends on the injury update. It looks like Wirtz could go down, but it's not locked in because even livefpl.net, which I recommend on this page, in terms of prices, they said Kudus would go up yesterday. He's still 6.5, so the timing could also be a little bit off. I still think they're trying to, get to grips with the new season and the way the algorithm has maybe changed from the previous campaign. I prefer Kudus over Johnson, to be honest, Mohammed. Michael says, even though I'm going to wait for extra news, thoughts on Palmer and Guia to Gordon and Joao Pedro. I like the look of that. And obviously, I talked about Gordon before. Most shots in Gameweek 1 of any player. Facing Leeds and Wolves back-to-back. Nice fixture swing in Gameweek 3. I'm actually all for it. And Joao Pedro is obviously one of the better forwards in FPL, it seems. Yeah, I was doing okay, but Joao Pedro has killed me. Yeah, I mean, thank fuck I have Joao Pedro, because otherwise things would be terrible for me. So look, I got it wrong about Dango Ouattara. I didn't think he'd start from the get-go, but a very good debut for him. And yeah, Dango Ouattara will be the locked-in right winger for Brentford, and that was a massive game-changer for them. So yeah, it goes to show that this season will be unpredictable. I don't think we'll have like, maybe apart from the newly promoted clubs, maybe Wolves and Brentford will kind of be inconsistent. They'll surprise you, maybe beat some top teams along the way, and then just really let you down when you back them in the so-called plum fixtures. Yeah, I think that's true, Ahmed. Chris Wood in Gameweek 3 must be a captaincy consideration, surely. He will be in my top 10. I'm guaranteeing you that now. So by the time we get to the next deadline stream, maybe in one of my videos, I'll be talking about that, and Chris Wood will be highly ranked for the captaincy. Braden says, it's hard to pick one of the top 3 United attackers. I get that. What do you think? Well, Bruno Fernandes has multiple avenues to points. He's the main penalty taker, which already puts him above the others. He is 1 million more expensive, but he does have DEFCON potential, which Mbeumo and Cunha almost certainly don't. So I still prefer Bruno Fernandes, who will offer more creativity as well. In terms of goal scoring, Mbeumo has the highest potential. Cunha has that sort of... I think the adaptation won't be that bad for him, because for Wolves, he played in the exact same system under Vitor Pereira in a 3-4-2-1, playing as the left inside forward. And once Sesko starts, I think that'll be better for Cunha, actually. So I would rank it Fernandes first, Cunha second, Mbeumo third. As you say, it is very difficult to rank them. It could change on a weekly basis, but over the course of the season, that's the way I would rank things at the moment. Yeah, I agree, Juniper. Even if Watkins was 7 million, it's still a big disappointment, and captaining him was a big dagger to my robot heart, if people want to call it that. But yeah, I don't know why. I just love pain, apparently, because Ollie Watkins only does that for me. Yeah, no love, just pain. Yeah, Ange Postecoglou does have, obviously, those Greek roots. His surname is obviously Greek, but yeah, Nuno Espirito Santo's done a brilliant job at Forest, and it could all go horribly wrong for Forest if he goes. I really think they could go downhill that quickly. They should still beat West Ham based on what we've seen so far, but it's not a guarantee without Nuno at the helm. I don't think Palmer is available in Gameweek 3. Maresca will not risk Palmer, especially with a lot of games to go. It really depends on the extent of the injury, but yeah, they took no risk against West Ham yesterday. He had a little problem in the warm-up. He felt something, and they just didn't risk it, so it's the right call. Yeah, I think maybe Palmer and Saka will both be available in Gameweek 4, but not beforehand. So apparently, Ahmed, it will be tonight, according to livefpl.net. Don't hold me to it. It's just a price prediction by them. They are quite reliable most of the time, but I think this season they're still finding their feet when it comes to price rises and falls. 68 points bench boost used with Bruno, Munoz, Tarkovsky, and Henderson left. I don't think 100 points is realistic, to be honest, but you could get to 80 or 90, I think. My prediction would be around 85 for your final score, which would be decent. I'd definitely take that right now, but unfortunately, miracles don't always happen. I got 62 points with free hit. It depends if you've got any other players left, Ned, but that's a good score so far. If I free hitted, I would have had Gyökeres and Saka. So, yeah, I probably would have scored a considerable number of points more, but there you go. Dylan, do you think Nuno out makes Wood a no-go? Yeah, if Nuno leaves, I would be not put off Chris Wood because he's facing West Ham next, but it would definitely make me less drawn to him as an FPL asset. That's definitely a good point to raise, but yeah, hopefully Nuno stays and we can see more teams competing for those European spots. Mick says, if Verts is expected to drop in price, definitely free hitting tonight. Wow, that's an interesting point. And yeah, Verts against Arsenal doesn't look pretty, but would it surprise me if he blanked against Newcastle and then returned against Arsenal? Not really. Football is a funny game, but I get your point. Middleton, or TN, says, I'll be keeping Watkins and Rodgers still. They just have so many good fixtures not to sort themselves out. Yes, but there comes a time where they have to return eventually. Otherwise, it'll be a complete waste of time and resources. But I am on your side at the moment in terms of your analysis of them. I think they're holds, but they need to return very soon. Yeah, Dango could be a potential option if you're looking at a Brentford attacker, but yeah, I'm still more drawn towards Semenyo, Kudus, and other options first, even Reinders, Elliot Anderson, Caicedo. But yeah, it's definitely one to look at for sure. Dan the Man says, don't have JP, but got 34 from 7. That's good. I think that's not too shabby. Bruno, Verts, Munoz, and Mateta left. I think that's decent. No Salah is a bit of a tricky one, but you've got some solid players left, especially Bruno Fernandes tomorrow. Who can I transfer Fulcrook to? I have 0.5 in the bank and 2 transfers. Your options are quite limited, to be fair, but yeah, I would consider Strand Larsen despite the blank today. Ultimately, my favourite forwards are 7.5 or above, whether it's Mateta, Chris Wood, Joao Pedro, Gyökeres, Watkins, and Erling Haaland. So, yeah, that price and below is probably going to be one of Strand Larsen or... Oh, that's... I'm not really a big fan of the other options, to be fair. I'd have to think about that. So, yeah, I will be talking about a wildcard team very soon. So once the weekend is done, I can reflect on all the matches and, you know, I think I'd build a really solid team for the wild card, and it will be even better than what you saw a few days ago. Lager says this season is all over the place, and I like it, to be honest. There is not a stream of FPL players that follow each other, but rather many possibilities of what players and teams to pick. Yes, there is a template, though. Ultimately, that template isn't doing particularly well so far, but there are different strategies flying around. Some people are bench boosting, others are free hitting. Wild cards are flying around, and there's also nothing. Maybe some hits are being taken, but that's a good thing to see about the game. Long may it continue. But yeah, I think ultimately in the second half of the season, that will be more template than the first. I think we have to prepare ourselves for that. It will be a bit more boring, but hopefully at least for the first 19 to 25 game weeks before we get to the doubles and blanks, we will see more variation. If Verts blanks, who would you sell in first, or Palmer? It all depends on that Palmer update, to be honest, mate. Difficult to say beforehand. Yeah, if Palmer's out, then obviously he's the one to sell first. And if he's available, yeah, I'd rather sell Verts than Cole Palmer if that was the case. So it just depends on that injury update. So unfortunately, I don't really have anything definitive to say there. As things stand, based on the potential absentee in Game Week 4, I think Palmer is more of a risk, actually. So I'd lean towards selling him, but it all depends on that update. Sell Palmer, buy Kudus, upgrade Anderson to Calafiori, Maria to Van Dijk, Estep to Cucurella. They're good transfers, but I'm still going to say this. I wouldn't recommend Calafiori. He's injury prone, and he's also going to have Lewis Skelly taking a few starts from him. So despite the brilliant output so far, I wouldn't be buying Calafiori. The rest looks great, though. Even Van Dijk, facing Arsenal, not particularly appealing, but long-term, that's a good transfer. Nolan says, my mate triple captain Timber. Fair play to him. I mean, I would never do that, but there you go. Sometimes you got to go for it. Before Nuno Forest were bottom. Yeah, and they also were struggling that season. They finished 17th, I believe, but in his first full season, we all know what he did. Yeah, that would be a massive loss for Forest. I mean, it's more important keeping him than Morgan Gibbs-White or Chris Wood, for sure. Toasted replacements, 5 million and below. I'd still be looking at Chris Richards, Lacroix, Matty Cash. I think I'd go for Lacroix, to be honest. Sankalp says Palmer and Saka to Salah and Dango for free to build a Salah Haaland team. Not for me. Just keep Palmer and Saka for now. Wait for the updates. It doesn't look good for them. I think most of us would agree that they're unlikely to play in Game Week 4 or in Game Week 3, particularly in the case of Saka. But yeah, keep him for now. Maybe you have Watkins' cursed captaincy. It's not just the captaincy, though, actually. The last time I captained him, he got 8 points, but then Salah the day later got 16 points. So, yeah, congratulations to Salah captain as an advance, he's surely going to do something against Newcastle. But it's just more of about like what happens. So if I'm facing someone in head-to-head who has Watkins, he gets a hat-trick of assists, and I think one of them or two of them were like FPL assists, so they're jammy, and then that means my friend wins in head-to-head and stuff like that. And when I need Watkins to do something to beat someone in head-to-head, he does nothing, or to go up in rank, and then I go and get a red arrow. So it's just bad history with him. Lima says 26 points on the bench. Dubravka, Borro, Joao Pedro, and still Williams left on the bench. Okay, I can sympathise with Dubravka and Borro, but what are you doing with Joao Pedro on your bench? That is crazy. I know I talked about his record against West Ham, but that is insane. Best 6 million asset to you. What position? Are we talking about midfield? If that's the case, it's still Reinders or Anderson for me. Caicedo isn't too far behind either, but yeah, you're looking at one of Reinders or Anderson. Saka replacement, I'd say Bruno Fernandes, just to keep it simple. But just wait for more updates first. I'm not confident about Saka. I think he'll miss the Liverpool game, but yeah, I'd go to Bruno Fernandes. I might even buy him myself for Cole Palmer. Ahmed says, hi, Morgan Gibbs-White, prospect in the West Ham game. I think any player will have high prospects against West Ham right now, especially those midfielders and forwards. They have been terrible so far. 8 goals conceded. The underlying numbers are absolutely awful as well. Yeah, I think Gibbs-White is a decent option. If you have him, you certainly wouldn't be selling. How long should I hold on to Palmer? It's just more of a case of waiting for updates. But if he's available and he blanks against Fulham, I get that sort of question. You know, when does he turn into a sell? And I think that'd be fairly soon, considering his price tag. He has to deliver, but yeah, it's not looking good right now. I think both Saka and Palmer will miss Gameweek 3 as things stand. Hi, would you transfer out Saka and transfer in Cunha if you already have Bruno Fernandes? I'd entertain that. I mean, ultimately, whether you double or triple up on Man United, especially offensively, let's bear in mind what they did last season. They were terrible. Even in Gameweek 1 with a good performance against Arsenal, they didn't score a goal. So I think we should also temper our expectations with United. Even against Burnley, they might struggle to create chances or get those 3 or 4 goals you're looking for. But I think they'll get a nice win against Burnley next week. And surely that'll be the first time Amrim wins back-to-back games at Man United, because he hasn't done it so far. I don't mind that double up against Burnley, but long-term, that could be an issue. Nolan says 56 points. Bruno, Salah, Anderson, Milenkovic left. Yeah, you're going to get a green arrow. Let's put it that way. Danny B says, thinking of an early wild card. I have Saka, Palmer, Wirtz, Fulkrug, Watkins. Should I hit the button? I mean, I don't know who you have in your other areas, but yeah, if Saka and Palmer are out, that could be enough reason to wildcard in of itself, let alone an underperforming Fulkrug. Florian Wirtz will wait and see how he does on Monday, but I still think he's a hold in the next couple of weeks. Can I have a rewind chip this week? I wish so. If you can go back in time, I mean, really the only sort of benefit I see to it is in FPL. Twisted Parky says on 26, Dewsbury Hall, Salah, Wirtz, Mateta, Murillo to go. I think you'll finish on 50 points. There or thereabouts anyway. Yeah, Richarlison is looking good at the moment at 6.6, but I still think Solanke long-term will be the starting striker for Tottenham Hotspur, and I just don't trust Richarlison as a player. I've never rated him. I think he's in a purple patch right now. We saw something similar around 2 years ago, where he was getting returns in like 4 or 5 consecutive games, but I think long-term he's not going to be a solution for you. Celsius, 1Z Celsius says, Sunderland disappointed me today, but immediately Ballard went off. I kind of expected Burnley to win. Yeah, that was a massive blow for them in just 8 or 9 minutes, and I talked about skipping Ballard, but I thought he could be a good option this week, and it's just more of a long-term, he's not going to do the job for you, but now he could be out for the next couple. Tempted to go Palmer, Guiu to Kudus, Wood before price changes, talk me out of it. Wait for updates, mate, because with Cole Palmer, there's still a chance he's available, more so than Saka, in my opinion. And look, I can't really blame you for going for Kudus and Chris Wood, but yeah, I think Cole Palmer is still a good option in Gameweek 3, should he be available. Yeah, I think Fulkrug is more of a sell. I said this after Gameweek 1 because that was really the main appeal against Sunderland, but he obviously had that disallowed goal yesterday. 3.5 in the bank gives you plenty of, room and leeway there. I'd be looking at Chris Wood from the same fixture, but I think people will be put off if Nuno Espirito Santo leaves, and that could be imminent. It could even happen in the next couple of days, actually. Musica Bogo says, gutted I didn't go Senesi this week, pushing 30 DEFCON already and in the bonus. Yeah, that's incredible, to be fair. Diakate or Diakite also did fairly well. And fair play to those that invested in Bournemouth. I also like Troffert after his performance against Liverpool in Game Week 1. Villa don't look the same without Rashford and Asensio. Yeah, they're quite one-dimensional, but I also think they should start with a more attacking team because in Game Week 1 anyway, they started with Anana, Kamara, and also... Jeez, I can't remember. Tielemans. They started with all of them together, and I think one of Buendia or Marlon from the get-go, especially Marlon, would be very helpful for the likes of Watkins. Will Isak be essential if he joins Liverpool? No. Will he be a great option? I still think so, but not as good as he is, or he would be, at Newcastle, because he's not a talismanic figure, because Salah's on penalties, you've also got McAllister who can take them, and at Newcastle, he will hog the bonus points as well. Simon F says Aston Villa were really poor, something to worry about as a Watkins owner. Yes, I don't think Watkins himself was particularly terrible, but I think Villa in general couldn't get the ball to him, as rightfully pointed out by a few viewers in the live chat, like Goldhead, for example. Dan the Man says, thoughts on Gordon for Saka, Palmer replacement. Yeah, that's another one, but the first thing that springs to mind for me is Bruno Fernandes, actually, against Burnley at home. Gordon is a good shout, decent couple of games from Game Week 3. I agree. If I don't go for Fernandes or Cunha, I think Gordon would be next on the agenda. Savi says took a -4, included Joao Pedro to Gyökeres captain. Gyökeres not sure what to think. Well, you probably wouldn't have captained Joao Pedro. You lost out on 2 points from that transfer, but then obviously you captained Gyökeres, and ultimately how you compare that with the -4 hit taken into account is who would you have captained with Joao Pedro? Would it have been Palmer or Salah? I mean, yeah, that would be very interesting, but obviously, for those that aren't aware, if you have Captain Palmer, that is where your vice comes into play. I've seen some people captain or vice-captain Raya. I wish I did that, because I have bloody Watkins. Oscar says, should I buy Lacroix, even though he faces Villa? Well, it's an Aston Villa side without a goal this season, but that will surely change at Villa Park in Game Week 3. The thing with Lacroix, though, is he can get defensive contributions very regularly, definitely more so than Gabriel and all these other players. I think Lacroix is a nice long-term investment, so I'm going to say yes. He was actually a purchase in my Transitics podcast, just as a long-term acquisition for the FPL team. Yeah, Stiegel? The Stig. Stig TV. Stigtve. Sorry. I'm going Gordon. Yeah, great transfer there. I think Gordon and Bruno Fernandes will be very popular this week. Easy says Chelsea have many attacking options, can play Palmer position, Maresca can be relieved, he can pick who to start. Yeah, there is a little bit more or less pressure on Palmer, let's say, but it's more so you've got options in the winger areas. You know, you've got Estaval, Gittins, Pedro Neto. But yeah, in Palmer's position, it's just Joao Pedro who can play as an attacking midfielder or second striker, really, in my opinion anyway. I don't think you've got much else apart from Enzo Fernandez. I mean, don't get me wrong, that's decent depth, but yeah, I see where you're coming from. Chelsea are certainly in a better position now than they were a few years ago, but West Ham are terrible. I mean, they made Sunderland look quite decent, and we saw how they did tonight as well. Celta Vanderson for a 7.5. Well, you can't go for Chris Wood. He's a little bit above that, but Joao Pedro would be very boring and sensible pick long term. I don't think Palmer will go down just yet, but I think over the next couple of days, yeah, Palmer will be sold in droves. The same goes for Saka. It's typical FPL heritage. Yeah, Palmer for Fernandes is something I'm looking at, mate. I talked about that earlier. I'm also looking at Gordon and Matheus Cunha, but if Palmer is out, I can see myself going for Bruno Fernandes. Richarlison has purple patches, then nothing. Yeah, and look, Richarlison can score beautiful goals. I think he's quite good acrobatically, but his finishing is erratic. You know, if you're ranking him against other Premier League strikers, he's not top 5. He's probably not top 10. Maybe that's a controversial opinion, but yeah, I'd rather go for Kudus longer term. Anachronism puts the squad, suggests transfers or none, suggesting future moves if Palmer doesn't play. I still don't like that double up in the Spurs defence, despite their clean sheets recently. I think Romero is more of a sell. He's got DEFCON potential, but still not really feeling it. You've got Dubravka and Estev, but I think that's fine as backups. Yeah, so something you might want to consider is Palmer to Gordon if Palmer is out, and then using those funds to upgrade Guiu to João Pedro, which is quite boring, but boring sometimes is the way to go. If I was a bit more boring last season, I would have done even better. If Graham Potter gets sacked as well as Nuno for the West Ham job, that's a good shout. The thing with Nuno, though, is I think he might leave more so than him getting sacked, but same result either way, right? I think that'd be a terrible, terrible mistake by Nottingham Forest. I can't stress that enough. For approximately 7 million, do you prefer Semenyo or Evanilson? Semenyo all day long. And he might even go up to 7.2 tonight. Kevy says, so I have Palmer, Bowen, Strand Larson. Very tempted to sell Palmer, maybe to a United asset. Is Mbeumo Cunha for the Gameweek free fixture? I'm going to stick with my sort of gut feeling from pre-season. I prefer Cunha over Mbeumo, but there's not really much to separate them in actuality. The same goes for Fernandez, but he's the best of the lot, albeit 1 million more expensive. Wow, Saka says, gutted, had Timber in my free hit team, changed him last minute for Gabriel. Mate, I got Gabriel, and whilst I'm happy with the clean sheet, you look at Timber and you're kind of jealous. He got quadruple the amount of points that Gabriel did. That is crazy. Season before last, Senesi was a must-own. He might have been decent FPL-wise, but I don't think it was ever a must-own. But yeah, maybe him, Troffer, Diakate. You got some options there for Bournemouth. And obviously Petrovic in goal. But yeah, it was only a couple of days ago. They looked quite shaky against Liverpool defensively. Of course, they definitely offered a lot going forward. They even could have got a draw there. But yeah, Bournemouth will still do quite well this season, despite their obviously major departures at the back. Just wait until Ariola's back in net. He saves every Chris Wood shot on target. I still think Hermansen will start. But maybe you're onto something. I'm not sure how long Aitner is injured for. It is a reaction stream. We're offering our initial thoughts. I personally don't think Saka will play against Liverpool. With Cole Palmer, I'm quite doubtful about that as well. For Gameweek 3. With Aitner, yeah, it's not looking too good. I think Gavardia will come in at left back. That's my original or initial prediction. We'll see how things change. Maybe I'll do a predicted lineups podcast in a couple of days' time if people want to see it. Is Ekatike to Wood for free worth it? For Gameweek 3, I think that's an upgrade, but Ekatike can score against Arsenal, and you're looking at Gameweek 4. Liverpool have Burnley away, so it's not... I'm not sure about ideal time, but it's not really like something that screams out as a must-buy, or you have to sell Ekatike. It's like a luxury transfer, if anything. How Marlon does not get into that team, I don't know. I just think Unai Emery doesn't fully trust him, which is a shame, because he was brilliant in pre-season. He definitely has that goals and assist potential, and I think he'd actually improve Villa offensively. In my opinion, if Marlon starts in Gameweek 3, I think Villa scored 2 or 3 goals, even against Palace. Kevy says all 3 promoted teams have a win already, which is cool to see. This season is hard to read. That's good and refreshing for the league. I want to see a newly promoted club stay and not have this massive gap between the Championship and the Premier League. But yeah, even Brentford, people were saying they're concerned about them, myself included. Well, unfortunately, that wasn't the case in Gameweek 2, but there you go. Easy says, I don't think Trafford will survive long enough to keep the #1 spot, especially with Donnarumma likely being the new signing for City. Well, the distribution today was terrible, and whilst Donnarumma isn't great with his feet, he's much more reliable than that. I think the last time he's made a mistake of that magnitude was against Real Madrid a few years ago. Pep, fan of Donnarumma. It is kind of surprising, though, because Pep was also the one who came into Man City. He got rid of Joe Hart, which, to be honest, upon reflection, is the right call. But he went for Bravo because of his distribution, and then ultimately he ended up with Edison. Twisted Parky says, oh Jesus, Villa make contact over Christopher Nkunku. Not for me. I don't really get why all these Premier League clubs do Chelsea a favour. Even Arsenal with Madueke, who was decent today, by the way. Why do people help them out? Just let Chelsea rot. Fuck him. There you go. Pizzi says, what's your opinion on taking a -4 to make these transfers with the injury concerns? Watkins to Pedro, Palmer to Eze, and Saka to Salah. I think Eze could get the nod, actually, against Liverpool. And based on my prediction of Saka not playing, I think it'll be Eze on the left and Madueke on the right. So that could definitely have some legs there. Yeah, with Watkins, I still think he's worth holding on to, but I completely get the lack of patience. I captain him, so you can imagine how I feel, and you know, the frustrations I have with Watkins historically. But yeah, I'd still be waiting a little bit. If Cole Palmer's fit, I wouldn't be making those transfers. Maybe just stick with something like Watkins to Pedro, if anything. Of course, Saka to Salah is highly dependent on selling Palmer as well. But yeah, if Palmer's fit, I'd still keep him for Gameweek 3. Would you rather have Kudus or Gordon long term? It's a close one, but I would go for Kudus right now. Kane says, do you still think a United midfielder over Gordon considering their fixtures? The thing with Bruno Fernandes and Cunha, though, and Mbeumo to a certain extent as well, is they are fixture-proof. And Newcastle in pre-season weren't particularly great. And I think Fernandes had a good pre-season. He was quite solid. He scored a brace against West Ham. To be fair, anyone can do that right now. But yeah, he was looking really sharp in the summer. And in Gameweek 1, I think Fernandes looked quite decent against Arsenal. 5 key passes, and he's got so many avenues to points, which I like about him. Lacroix over Munoz. What would you do with the extra 0.5 million? That also is a big factor. But if money is no issue, I'd go for Munoz. I think Lacroix will get significantly more DEFCON points. It goes without saying. But Munoz will get more goals and assists and arguably bonus points too. Ned says, I have Frimpong, Palmer, Barry, De Kuyper and Minter. I'm just making sure that wildcard's the right move. I mean, I get it. You know, Tierno Barry isn't even starting right now. We'll see what happens tomorrow. Frimpong's injured. Cole Palmer might be out for Gameweek 3. Mint and De Kuyper are kind of meh. And Brighton are bottom of the FDR until Gameweek 9. But if Palmer isn't available... Sorry, if Palmer is available, I'd probably not wildcard. I don't like using the wildcard that early. I mean, if I went with the wildcard in Gameweek 2, it would have been even worse than what I'm talking about right now. And I'm not necessarily happy with my score. Poochie Head says, I'm concerned. Why is Reinders Price Rise not showing on my team? You're probably looking at your... Wait, so there is a difference between purchase price and selling price. So if you buy in Reinders at 5.5 million and he goes up to 5.6, which happened last week, that doesn't mean if you sell him, you get 5.6 because you need a player, whilst he's in your FPL team, to go up by 0.2 million in price to gain 0.1 million in selling value. Adam Fine says Mateta or Chris Wood. It's actually close, but for Gameweek 3, considering how crap West Ham were, I'm going to say Chris Wood. The kind of downside to that sort of pick is the future of Nuno Espirito Santo and what that could mean for Nottingham Forest. Tustapaki says Cliver and Semenyo also options around Gordon's price. Yeah, for sure, but Semenyo is the go-to right now, and even in pre-season, I was very bullish on Semenyo over Cliver. That's something I've been very consistent about, but obviously once Cliver is back in that starting 11, he will be on penalties, which definitely gives him an edge from that perspective. Ekatike or Pedro? João Pedro. And look, I've got João Pedro in my team. I talked about this in the summer. João Pedro was in my top 5 forwards, actually, if I'm not mistaken. Be sure to check out that video as well, where I rank every single position, the best players in every single area. But yeah, João Pedro for me. What site do you use for price predictions? Yeah, I also use that site, FPL Statistics, but unfortunately it's no longer with us. RIP, WIP, LIP, whatever you want to say. But I use livefpl.net now, and last season they were very reliable. But I will be honest, so far in this campaign, I think they're still finding their feet when it comes to price rises and falls, and they're not fully there yet when it comes to predicting them. But I think over the course of the season, you'll be very happy with their results. Anachronism says, what about gear to wood? I'm absolutely fine with that, mate. I have no problems with that whatsoever. So what I'm going to do now is show you my... I'm going to show you my predictions and stuff like that, and the other graphics that I talked about. And yes, I'm going to even show you the stuff that I got wrong. So I said Chelsea 3, West Ham 1. Obviously, it was a 5-1 win there for Chelsea yesterday. I said Man City 3, Tottenham 2. I only got the away goals right. It was a 2-0 win for Tottenham Hotspur, who were momentarily top of the Premier League. Bournemouth 2, Wolves 2. Stinker and Hooked by Dylan McClay. Well done. Also, Brentford 1, Aston Villa 2. At least I got the home goals right, I guess. Burnley 0, Sunderland 0. I predicted a Burnley clean sheet, but at what cost? Quite a lot, actually. Arsenal 2, Leeds 0. So I predicted the clean sheet, but not the 5 goals that Arsenal scored. For tomorrow, I've gone for Palace 1, Forest 1, Everton 1, Brighton 2, Fulham 0, Man United 1. And for Monday night, Newcastle 2, Liverpool 2. So let's quickly go through this because, yes, I got the highlighted player wrong this time. It was Cody Gakpo last week against Bournemouth who scored, but this time it was Ollie Watkins to target Brentford. Dung, 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 dung. Dung. Yeah, terrible. Let's just forget this even happened. Ollie Watkins letting me down as usual in Fantasy Premier League. And the clean sheet odds. Oh, I just paused it in the wrong time. What an idiot. So Arsenal, they were top. They kept the clean sheet. Well done. Now top of the Premier League for one day. Man City second. Yeah, they conceded twice to Tottenham at home. Burnley in third. They kept the clean sheet. Chelsea obviously conceding yesterday. Bournemouth kept a clean sheet as well. Let's see how Palace do tomorrow. And Leeds United, who are bottom, obviously failed to keep a clean sheet in a 5-0 loss against Arsenal, which I certainly didn't expect. Let's now go to the top 10 captains and laugh at my picks. Yes, I had Rodgers in 10th. Odegaard, I think, was a bit unfortunate. Come on, cut me a bit of slack there because he got injured. Who would have thought that? João Pedro in 8th. Never scored or assisted against West Ham before, and I still had him in the top 10, so Watkins in 6th. Terrible. We'll see how Fernandes does tomorrow in 7th. Gyökeres in 5th. Yeah, Palmer in 3rd with the pre-warm-up injury, and Maresca didn't say anything about an injury in the last couple of days or any problems, but obviously he said that yesterday now. Erling Haaland blanked in 2nd place, Saka in 1st. I think the injury, of course, very unfortunate for those that went there. And Salah on Monday night. I'm actually hoping he blanks against Newcastle United. 2-2, Black Army, 2-2, Black Army. Yeah, whatever. Let's go back to my team and enjoy my 38 points. Not great. So yeah, price changes can be seen in the website livefpl.net. You know what? Since people are still asking about that, let's go to the website. I'm going to copy and paste this link. So go to the live chat and just check it out. And if you haven't done so already, like the video, subscribe to the channel. We're closing in on 35,000 subscribers. And I believe it was only 2 weeks ago where we hit 34K. So thank you very much for your support. We've got almost 500 people watching, which is great to see. And yeah, the aim is to get to 200 plus likes, at least to begin with. And I say begin with, and I've been live for well over an hour. Typical Dylan. I think the deadline stream yesterday was over 3 hours, but I'm always here answering your questions, providing different graphics, observations. Howlers, yes, I do have howlers as well in me, like Ollie Watkins, but we all have them. Do we sell Wirtz now or firm the price drop? I'd keep Wirtz and see how he does against Newcastle on Monday and then reassess the situation because I think information is the most important thing, especially at this stage of the season. I know you could also argue about price changes and building up that team value, but I think having that information is key. Is Isak a must if he transfers to Liverpool? It seems like a differently worded question to something I answered earlier, where is he essential if he goes Liverpool? The answer is no. Is he one of the best forwards in the game? Yes, I'd argue he's still second behind Haaland, but no, he's not a must. Best replacement for Watkins would be between João Pedro, Chris Wood. I think that's probably it. I mean, with Erling Haaland, do you downgrade Palmer to a cheaper midfielder than go to Haaland? Maybe that would be a nice idea, but that all depends on Palmer's fitness, and I'd keep Ollie Watkins. I know he's been really poor. I'm disappointed in him more so than most, but I think Watkins should be held on to for at least 1 or 2 more weeks. Johnson or Kudus for Palmer? I'd keep Palmer personally until we get an update that's definitive, but it would be Kudus for me. Brennan Johnson will start most games for Tottenham, but I think Kudus is more nailed on in that starting 11. Connor Shopify says, what do you think of Timber as a cheap route to the Arsenal defence? I think he is a minute's risk. I mean, Arteta said this yesterday that they need to manage his load because he came off the back of an ACL injury the season before last, and obviously in the last campaign he played every single game virtually. And I think Timber did an interview with a Dutch outlet saying that he was basically overplayed and he needed more rest and stuff like that. That's what a City fan told me anyway. Maybe he's just shit stirring as usual, but yeah, that's something I need to double check. But during Timber will rotate with White. The thing with Arsenal is they've got 2 quality players in most positions now, which is great to see.
And Ben White, in my opinion, over the last 3-4 years has been one of the best right backs in England. So the only reason why I was kind of bullish on Timber starting against Leeds is because White didn't train this week. So it just looked kind of natural for Timber to get that start. That massive return was never predicted. I never thought Timber would get this return in any game week, let alone now against Leeds. But yeah, ultimately, Gabriel and Saliba are your kind of safety nets. They're worth the extra 0.5 million over Timber, who I think will start a lot of games for Arsenal and get plenty of game time in all competitions. But in FPL, I think he'll be quite disappointing at times, and Ben White will get plenty of starts for Arsenal this season. So at the moment, Peter, I'd say no. I'm not that confident of Palmer starting, but I'd keep him and wait for more information first. But Bruno Fernandes, Gordon, Cunha are all on the agenda for me to replace Shiver Me Timbers, Cole Palmer. Paolo says, went to offload Fulkrug before the price drop. Fulkrug to Wood, Mateta, Ekitike. To be fair, that's another forward I forgot to mention. Mateta's a nice one. He scored obviously on Thursday night. Ekitike, brilliant performance on his debut in the Community Shield against Palace and obviously against Bournemouth as well. But yeah, I would probably lean towards Chris Wood at the moment. And I think all of them are a massive upgrade on Fulkrug, I hate to say it. Would have to downgrade Wurzel, Palmer to likes of Bruno, Gordon, Semenyo. Yeah, so it's Palmer to Bruno. Yeah, Wirtz to Bruno wouldn't really work for you there. I'd probably say Palmer to Bruno if he is indeed out. Weird prediction for player that's not talked about much by us that will get more points in Gameweek 3. Yeah, great question. You typically ask this sort of thing, which I completely get. And by the way, for those that aren't aware, let's refresh this and see if anything's changed. But Semenyo, Kudus, Reinders, and Matty Cash could go up in price tonight. The likes of Chris Wood could also rise tomorrow. Let's not do any Wood jokes, please. And a lot of price falls are predicted by livefpl.net, but not all of them will be accurate. Just saying it now. It is not gospel, but it's a nice sort of barometer and measuring stick for price changes. So what I'm going to do now is go back to my FPL team and also have a look or a little scour through all the teams and see if I can answer this question, which is a very good one by Easy99. A player that hasn't performed that well so far that could do the business in Gameweek 3. That is a very, very good question. So let's see if I can come up with a good answer, which I think this question deserves. Well, dare I say, a United attacker, which is kind of a boring answer because they're facing Burnley at home, but Bruno Fernandes hasn't returned yet. We'll see how he does tomorrow. Cunha and Mbumo. But the question, if I go back to it, does say, well, it's a weird prediction, so yeah, that's not really a weird prediction. Maybe something a little bit left field. I mean, saying that Ollie Watkins will do well against Crystal Palace, is that really weird? Very difficult question to answer. Okay, you know what? Ndai against Wolves, especially if I sell him, I just know that Ndai will do well. So that's a weird prediction, I guess. I'm just not that much of a fan of Nkuku. Didn't get him last season. Oh yeah, I get that. He should get plenty of game time at Villa, but then surely what will Daniel Marlon think? Because he just never gets a chance, it seems. Juno DSCVR says, hi, great content. Thank you very much. Sorry if this has been answered. Is Pedro predicting to rise tonight? I might move early and swap Mateta to Pedro. Pedro's so highly owned, he could be a rank killer. Yeah, he was for some people yesterday. I'll go back to livefpl.net, but I think it's always good to have a backup. So the other website I use for price changes is Fantasy Football Hub. So I'll have a look at what they're saying as well. But if I have a quick glance at Joao Pedro, apparently, just saying, so this is not set in stone. He might still go up in price tonight, but they're not predicting him to go up until Monday, basically, on the 25th of August. So let me just put that link again. And let's have a look at Fantasy Football Hub. Let's see what they're saying as well. So we're going to go to the toolbox and price changes. So they think Joao Pedro will go up in less than a week. So yeah, I don't think he'll go up today or tomorrow, but I think There'll be a lot of transfers tomorrow, to be fair. So, yeah, Sunday night to Monday morning is a possibility, but tonight, surely, Joao Pedro won't go up in price. I mean, come on, people. Let's calm each other down, you know. Let's keep it in our pants, you know. Let's not be too woke. Let's not jump the gun already. Denver says, evening, Dylan. Would you swap out Gyökeres for Sesko, Wood, or Gakpo to Gordon? I'd rather sell Gyökeres to Chris Wood, actually. XRP says, true, how did Chelsea even get away with FFP every year and still collecting players like Pokemon? Well, to be fair to Chelsea, and I don't like them that much, but they do sell very well. They definitely do. And that helps a lot. Why Watkins, not Gyökeres? Well, because I still think until Game Week 7, Watkins will outscore him. I made the wrong call this week captaining Watkins, but yeah, I did say from the beginning, if I had an Arsenal player, I'd captain him, but I just didn't have that. I mean, yes, I have Gabriel, but a defender, I mean, yeah, fair enough. Timber obviously got 24 points, but we move. 32 points of Guy subbed in. Dream start with Joao Pedro, Enzo, and now it's a nightmare Saturday. For some reason, Saturday was terrible for me last season, and if anything, it was Sunday, which kind of saved me a little bit, but I'm hoping that I can be more consistent this time round, but I'll be honest, like, I'm not really optimistic at the moment because even last season, which was my worst ever performance ever, I did well in the first 2 game weeks, and then I had a big slump between game week 3 and 8. I need to avoid that this time round. Think Eze takes Rice off corners and free kicks? Well, Rice got another assist today with the corner during Timber scoring the opening goal. I think Eze will take free kicks. He's a better free kick taker than Rice and Odegaard. We've seen that on a consistent basis, but at least Arsenal now have another option with those set pieces. But corners should be Saka and Rice. They're the main ones. I think Eze would be like the 3rd one in command and Odegaard 4th. That is a very good list of corner takers. No wonder they score so many from set plays. But yeah, in terms of free kicks, I think Eze will take them. Yeah. Jason Phillips says, hi Dylan, Sanchez, Dorgu, Van der Ven, Williams, Esteve, Diouf, Salah, Vert, Salah, Palmer. Sorry, he said Salah twice. I know he's good, but he's not that good. Ndai, King, Chris Wood, Joao Pedro, and Watkins. 2 free transfers in hand. Thoughts? Yeah, so you rolled the transfer, nice. So if Cole Palmer is out, I would consider something like Palmer to Kudus, and then using those funds to upgrade. Well, to be fair, you've got a nice front line anyway. I don't think you need to make any changes. To be honest, I'd be looking at Bruno Fernandes as a Palmer replacement, if not Anthony Gordon, if needed. But you don't need to make that many transfers, so you could feasibly make just 1 and have 2 free transfers for the international break in Game Week 4. Game Week 1 Ballard, Game Week 2 Timber, Game Week 3. If I'm sticking with a defender to get a massive haul, good question. Let's see if I can give a good answer. Dorgu. Let's just go for Dorgu against Burnley at home. Why not? Salah, Bruno, Ndai, Reinders, and Palmer. If so, Palmer, who to replace? Gordon would be a good one. I don't mind him so much. Yeah, I look at the other midfielders, and you've got options like Cunha, but I wouldn't be going for Marmoush. I don't think he'll start in Game Week 3 right now, and he was a big letdown today. Saka is probably out for Game Week 3 anyway. So yeah, I'm going to say one of Gordon or Cunha for you. I wouldn't panic with Palmer yet. I have a feeling he's going to play next week against Fulham. Yeah, that's possible. I'm more concerned about Saka, actually. But yeah, that's not an easy game. It's not a fixture I'd like to captain Palmer in. I think Fulham could frustrate Chelsea, even though I'd back the Blues to win. 6.9 million best mid. It's going to be Kudus, I think. Kudus, Reinders, Anderson, Caicedo, they're the standouts for me right now. Jorginho, Rota, Matoma are decent, but with Brighton's fixtures, they're kind of lower down than the others I just mentioned. So yeah, it's probably Kudus for me. NH1999 says, I captained Haaland, shouldn't have gone with the early kickoff. Gandhi wins again. Yeah, I think Salah will go off, and if that's the case, I'm going to be in a lot of trouble. Thank you, Adam. Very kind of you, and hopefully you tune in for the other deadline streams for FPL and UCL Fantasy. Thank you, Rodriv, as well. Arsenal to finally win the league. Well, look, we have 13 league titles, but it has been a while. I'm more confident after the Eze signing, but yeah, Arsenal have a way of lifting your hopes and letting you down. The injuries to Saka and Odegaard, I know we won 5-0 today, but I'm very concerned about that going into Liverpool. So we'll wait and see. I think the way I see it, I don't think Arsenal finish second. Hallelujah. I think it's basically Arsenal finish first or third. Hopefully it's first. I really hope that's the case, but there we go. It's going to be a difficult one. Is Cucurella's price going to rise given Aitner's injury? It's possible that he will rise. I think he will before the deadline, but not today. And obviously I showed the potential price rises and falls using livefpl.net. But we'll wait and see. Maybe I'm reading it wrong, because Fantasy Football Hub might have a different stance on it. I haven't actually fully checked what they said. So they're saying Cucurella, yeah, will go up in like a week, and he isn't getting transferred in that much right now. Wei Sing says Rodgers and our money for Nkuku and Jackson, we will take that. Mate, if Aston Villa agree to that, they deserve all the worst. Peter says, would you go Gordon or Barnes with 1 million in the bank? Gordon. I do prefer him on the left though, so I don't think him playing up front is actually a benefit, but he can win penalties. He's going to have more minutes than Barnes over the course of the season. The only problem is the injury record, because a lot of times you see Gordon with a yellow flag and then it makes him a doubt for the next game, which is quite frustrating. Have I missed something? Why would Nuno be leaving? Well, because he talked about his relationship with Marinakis yesterday, and he said that it's not the same anymore and they don't have as much contact. And he also, well, actually, he didn't say it. A report came out by The Athletic saying that the new sporting director, Edu, who was at Arsenal, has completely fallen out of Nuno, and the relationship is, you know, completely gone. There is no salvaging it, and it's personal, which is very surprising, by the way. Chris has the best expected HF, hair flicks per game. He does do that a lot, to be fair, but Calafiori is another one who just loves to show off his Italian hair and his, you know, little model self, or whatever you want to say. But yeah, look, Gyökeres, he scored twice, all right? So let's show him a bit of respect there. Respect there, respect. Great sound effects. I don't even know what you were talking about, because I did this a long time ago. And yeah, and the chat is obviously posted many minutes as well. I can't even speak. Many minutes ago as well. Oh, hey, had Lass of the Plazzy Scouse. Yeah, I could do it in Newcastle as well. How weird, man! I guess. Maybe a tune will be like, fuck off, you twat. Did Wan-Bissaka to cash this game week is like going from a trash bin to another trash bin. Rubbish bin is probably the right term in UK, but yeah. That is probably a good way of describing it. And I did say that with the 4-point family in defenders, I don't think there are many standouts, and I got it wrong about Van de Ven. I told people not to buy him. He got a clean sheet, 6 points. Congratulations. Ollie Watkins is my kryptonite. Every time I get him, he is balls, then great when I don't have him. Yes. You know what I might do? I might take one for the team. I might sell him, and then just say, everyone, buy Ollie Watkins and captain him, and then enjoy the points. And then, you know, people will be thanking me for once. Play my free hit for next week. I don't know your team, Joseph, so it's kind of difficult for me to say if you should do it or not. At the moment, I'm not looking at playing it myself, to be fair, but with Arsenal facing Liverpool, it's not a terrible idea. Do you think people are going to keep Haaland for long? Well, they should. I mean, if you just bought Haaland in, don't just rage transfer him out or consider selling him already. Ultimately, at that price, the same goes for Salah. They need to deliver more often than not, and you're going to have to captain them in most weeks. If you don't feel that way, you probably shouldn't have him in your FPL team, but Haaland is still going to be in the top 2, at worst 3rd, in terms of FPL points this season, but I'll be honest, I think it's 1st or 2nd for him. Sisty says, I also have Watkins, Palmer, and Dye. Do you plan to swap them? Well, Palmer is all injury dependent. If he's available, I'll keep. Fernandes is a top replacement option for me. The same goes for Gordon and Cunha. Dye is on the chopping block. Ideally, I'd be looking to sell him to Kudus, but I think right now the best thing to do is wait, because what happens about Palmer? You know, do I sell him instead and keep Dye for another week? With Watkins, I would keep him for now. He is the least priority, or yeah, I'd say he's probably the best one to keep out of the 3 right now, despite some underwhelming performances in the first 2 game weeks. So yeah, that's just covered Leonardo a few times in the stream. Love Dylan's dry humour. Thank you very much. It's not always dry. Sometimes it's a bit... I was going to say something a bit sus there. Michael says, rank these mids to buy. Kudus, Rodgers and Gordon. Well, based on what we've seen so far, it's going to be Kudus first, Gordon second, and Rodgers third. But it's only 2 weeks worth of data. And of course, Gordon hasn't played yet. On Monday night, I think he'll do well against Liverpool. But yeah, Rodgers played very poorly today. I know Watkins will get a lot of stick, but Rodgers was even worse today. So from what you said, our teams would lose value if we keep Verts. Well, I'll be honest, I need to double check again, or triple, quadruple, cinco check, if you can say that. So let's see with Florian Wirtz. He is expected to go down in price tomorrow. I get it. You don't want to lose value, and having that sort of head start, whether you wildcard early or buy these popular players, you know, before the price changes, is not a bad strategy. But I just prefer having the information, especially for those with Ollie Watkins. You know, you might want to sell him, but what about Palmer, who might miss out in Game Week 3? Bukayo Saka is very unlikely to play there against Liverpool, and you might have other fives to put out as well. So it's just difficult to say without knowing the context of your team. Wei Sing says, planning to sell Rodgers and Watkins. They don't know how to attack. Don't be surprised if they deliver, though, in Game Week 3. I know Palace are a decent side, but they've also got that sort of European competition to juggle, and I think they might struggle at times with that. Do we have a free hit per season now? It's not per quarter. Maybe that's what you meant, but it's per half. So between Game Weeks 1 to 19, you have one free hit, wildcard, bench boost, and triple captain. And from Game Week 20 until the end, you've got the same with every chip once more. Yeah, Nagib, I answered your question, so thank you very much. Let's not do this hindsight thing. Otherwise, yeah, FPL is not going to be a fun place. Kevin says, does Palmer drop tonight? I don't think so. Maybe lavfpl.net are nowhere near it in terms of the price changes this season, because it's quite difficult to adapt to a new campaign. I think Palmer is safe for now. My prediction is that by the Tuesday or Wednesday, he'll go down in price. But that's just my prediction based on how people will move. Maybe after Sunday, if Bruno scores, they'll be like, yep, Bruno in for Palmer. It's just sorted, done. And then we see that sort of push towards that transfer. But yeah, I don't think Palmer goes down tonight. Levin says, I got Saka and Palmer. Should I wildcard? Like I said earlier to someone else, wait for more information. Don't wildcard, because what if Saka and Palmer are suddenly available for Game Week 3 and you're like, actually, I want them in the long term. I think right now you'd be looking at Kudus and Bruno Fernandes, even Gordon. So 2 of those free midfielders to replace Saka and Palmer, maybe even Salah if you don't have the Egyptian in your team. So I'd wait for now, and information is the most important for me. Already made 2 transfers after Game Week 1. So yeah, wildcarding would cancel the hit. I get that. But ultimately, I'd only wildcard if those players, or at least one of them, was definitely ruled out and you're kind of convinced you want to make 7-8 changes, basically. Yeah, Cucurella, look, I never really considered him because I've got Sanchez in goal already. But amongst 6 million defenders, he's up there with Aït-Nouri, who unfortunately got injured, Gabriel Saliba, Daniel Munoz. I think those are really enticing. Van Dijk as well. And I think all of them are viable replacements for Frimpong, for example. But yeah, Cucurella, if I didn't have that Chelsea defensive coverage, I think I would have considered him, to be fair. Cash is terrible. Who the hell wants to buy him? It's really just a 4.5 million defender with good fixtures until Game Week 8. That's basically what it comes down to. Barnes or Elanga is a weird prediction. Well, Elanga is competing with Jacob Murphy, and Barnes will compete with Gordon over the course of the season. But right now, you would expect Barnes, Gordon, and Elanga as the front three against Liverpool on Monday night. Yeah, people buying Cash is baffling. Well, I discussed that as a potential transfer in Game Week 2, but once Frimpong was confirmed out, I was only going to go for one sort of transfer out, and I'm not going to replace Frimpong with Cash. That's something I said yesterday as well to somebody else. Thanks, mate. I'll try to keep it in my pants. Yeah, I just came back from the bar, pub, whatever you want to say. So yeah, no filter. Palmer to Cunha, that will be very popular if the Brazilian does well tomorrow. Those United midfielders will definitely be one to watch, or 3 players to watch with that Fulham game. Yeah, good to see you, Spidey. Long time no see. Thank you to Stapaki, but we have more than 15. I'm pretty sure we have over 100 likes there. Yeah, sometimes you just need to refresh, but yeah, it's still not enough. I just can't get enough. What's that song? I need to search it. It's like an 80s song. But yeah, let's get to 200 likes. We are still a little bit off that, but surely by the end of the stream, and also for those watching on the replay, we'll be getting to a good number there. And we've got 450 people tuning in, and it's 10 p.m. in the UK. And I'll probably have very late dinner now. What, in an hour's time or something like that? Oh, by the way, I need to check because there's a big game going on now. El Clasico, please. Don't let me down. Don't let me bloody down. Oh dear. I need a win, not a draw. How would you feel about captaining Chris Wood next week? Fairly confident he would be in my top 10 list, but even Salah against Arsenal would still be a big consideration for me. Palmer, if he's available against Fulham, would also be up there. And why not Joao Pedro after what he did yesterday? But you've got other options there as well. Erling Haaland, let's not just forget about him. Everyone was telling me last week, he's essential. Why do you not have him? Why are you a fraud? Why are you a twat? Blah, blah, blah. And now look, Erling Haaland blanks against Tottenham. Just a tip to peeps, I would hold transfers until after the game week. Players might perform, players might get injured, and some might go big and change plans. I completely agree, because by Monday, we might see Gordon just absolutely flop and Fernandes does well, or vice versa, and that changes your replacement for Palmer, or maybe with Ndiaye, you might think, oh, you know what, I want to sell Ndiaye to Kudus instead, because I didn't like how Newcastle United play. So I think that's a great point, but ultimately people want to make these early transfers, be early, and I think people have this sort of mentality about wanting to improve their team straight away. So if they do badly in Game Week 2, they think, oh, let me make a transfer now, I'm going to do well in Game Week 3 now. I've felt that same way before, that's why I can relate to it. Marinakis is an idiot. He is very heavily involved. I think a lot of Forest fans will be complimentary about him, but that could also shift if Nuno leaves the club. Best looking player in your team, Dylan. Expected P. Whoa, whoa, whoa. I mean, I talk about XG, expected goals, not something else, and stuff like that. But I don't know. I mean, I don't judge guys, but in my team, I'm gonna say Big Gabby. Why not? Because he's an Arsenal player, but I don't actually like him that way. I like his, goals, of course. I think it's Arsenal's to lose this season unless Liverpool get Isak, Gay over the line, maybe Rodrigo and Fofana. Arsenal strong everywhere. Well, that's why the Eze signing was very important, and Arsenal haven't won anything yet. They need to, go strong. I think Odegaard, Saka missing the Liverpool game potentially would be massive blows, but I think Eze does show a sign of intent. It's a statement, and it also prevents Tottenham getting a very good player who solves a lot of problems for them. But most importantly, it gives Arsenal a ball carrier, an option on the left wing, a clear upgrade on Martinelli and Trossard, and it also gives Gyökeres less pressure because with Havertz injured, Arsenal can play Marina up front, they can play Martinelli and Trossard there, even Eze, if needed, can play as a false nine. So Arsenal do have 2 or 3 players in every position now, and it's in a much better position than it was last season where it was very a light squad, and with all the injuries and suspensions, Arsenal really felt them because of that light squad. Would you play Gyökeres against Liverpool or buy Joao Pedro or Haaland? As much as I like Gyökeres and he can score against Liverpool, I'm not saying it's impossible. He has the capability, but I would buy Joao Pedro or Haaland. Who's winning the Champions League this year, Dylan? Very early to say. I need to see the draw as well. That plays a big part. I mean, PSG won it last year, and they were so terrible in the league phase. But right now, I'd say Barcelona, just an early prediction. I hope it's Arsenal, but one step at a time, yeah. Easy says, will FPL managers be able to use Isak in FPL? Not until Game Week 4. I think by that stage, he either leaves the club or, he stays at Newcastle. He will be there until next summer, and he knows what he has to do, but he gets incorporated again to that Newcastle team. But he's not going to play against Liverpool and not in Game Week 3. So expect Game Week 4 to be where we see Isak return to our FPL sides potentially. I have Palmer, Saka, 8 Nuri. I get why you want a wild card. You only want free transfer. You've got potentially 3 big issues there, all very expensive for their positions, but I would keep them and wait for more information. My prediction is that 2 of them won't play in Game Week 3. The most likely would be Palmer, but even that isn't a certainty, and surely in that sort of situation, that would be enough for a wild card. ¿Necesitas iniciar un canal de FPL en español? Es algo que alguna gente me dijeron alguna vez, pero te digo la verdad, ya estoy haciendo mucho trabajo con estos videos en inglés, y si yo hago todo en español también, mamma mía, sería muy difícil hacer ambos, pero es una buena idea, quizás un video o una porción para los que hablan español en Latinoamérica y en España, pero sí, un canal dedicado a FPL en español sería muy difícil con este canal también. The G-Man is class. We never should have sold him. He was great at Coventry. Look, he scored 2 goals against Leeds. One was with penalty, and people are talking about poor performances, expected hair flicks, and whatever it is. But He's a goal scorer. He's not someone that's going to excite you in terms of overall play, but I wanted a goal scorer, and Gyökeres is one of the best in the business. Watkins and Gyökeres, a dilemma. I just need to have one. Who will it be? It's still Watkins for me. Even after today, I know Gyökeres can still do well against Liverpool, Forest, City and Newcastle, but I prefer Watkins' fixtures. I would not buy Johnson for Rodgers, but it's up to you. If you want a Spurs attacker, my recommendation is either Kudus or Richarlison. Sol Bowen, still a hold for me, and despite West Ham's poor performance yesterday, he still got away with an assist. Can you just do a Gyökeres celebration for us? I did it earlier, very quickly, but then people are like, you're cringe, that's disgusting. But then when Gyökeres was at Sporting, cold, Bane, amazing, twat, whatever, but people just change their mind all the time. If he joins a club people don't like United or Arsenal, people are just going to get onto them. Eddie Cassie says, I have Palmer, Nuri, zero in the bank, what to do? Yeah, I'm getting a lot of these kind of questions, and I get it, but ultimately information is very important. 8 Nuri, it's quite unlikely he will play in Gameweek 3 based on the injury and how things looked for him. Palmer obviously was pulled out before the game even started, but there is a chance he plays against Fulham next weekend. But I think the best thing to do is wait. And ultimately, you don't need to wildcard based on 2 players as good as they are in their positions. Now, if you've got, like, let's say, a very bad team, or you're just doing really poorly in terms of points, and you would like to make 7+ transfers, which includes Palmer and 8 Nuri potentially, then fair enough. But I think the best thing to do is keep them. If they need to be replaced, I'd say Palmer to Bruno Fernandes is a good option, and 8 Nuri to, I'd probably say Munoz or Lacroix, someone like that, because Gabriel's not someone you'd buy against Liverpool away, even though he scored there once upon a time. Should we target United players? What about Newcastle, Gordon, Dan Burn, also Dorgu? Well, they will be the most interesting players to buy in Gameweek 3, considering their fixtures, but United don't have a nice set of games, or run of games, until Gameweek 7, 8, basically. It's really Burnley at home, and then they've got some tough fixtures afterwards, but that's how things are looking like at the moment. What is happening right now? I hope I'm not getting hacked or something. Even Newcastle asking Isak to play. I don't think Isak has the mood to play anymore for them. Yeah, but it's better than rotting in the reserves. It's also World Cup year, so there you go. The Arsenal effectors are in the Gyökeres celebration. Look, the AFTV thing of them running around the corner doing this, yeah, that's terrible. But I think people, is basically they hit Arsenal and they just think, oh, that's a shit celebration, bruv. Let's calm down. Are we going to have manager chips again this season? No. Because last season, from the very beginning, they said there is a mystery chip which will be revealed in January. That isn't the case this time round. Instead, we've got double the number of boosters. Obviously, we've always had 2 wildcards, 1 for each half of the season, but now it's the same for the free hit, triple captain, and bench boost. I think Eze, that's an interesting point, to be fair. So I did talk about Madueke on the right, Eze left earlier. We could see, if Odegaard is also out, Eze taking his place, Martinelli on the left, and then Madueke on the right. So I think that is very likely right now. Elche drew of Atletico. Yeah, Atletico just can't be relied upon for the league title. Yeah, expected P. I don't know what people are on today, but then again, I can't talk. Great content, shame about the captain. You got a like and sub from me. Yeah, there's always a downside, right? But thank you very much for the kind words. At least Bilal is enjoying the stream. Sisti says, okay, maybe waiting for more information is better than knee-jerking. I think a lot of these reaction streams this season is going to be like that. People asking about making this move and that. And I'll be urging caution. Not in all cases, because I think some are warranted. But I think it's also... yeah, I just think sometimes people will just chase last week's points or today's points. And I've done it before. And it doesn't always work out. Levante drawing with Barcelona. Well, there's still time. But I'm only interested in one game right now, which is happening in Argentina. Verts might drop, but we need to give him time. He is class. We need to see him if he's an FPL option, though. Yeah, we could see him get a lot of FPL assists. Sorry, that would be great. We could see him get a lot of pre-assists, but that is not relevant in FPL. You need those goals and assists, and I think Verts is a goals and assist player. He's very efficient in the final third, but maybe Gakpo's the one to go for right now. Really early days, though. Yeah, I agree with that. The XGI for Verts was 0.42 against Bournemouth, and obviously with Cody Gakpo, he scored a brilliant goal, but yeah, there was an element of fortune in Gakpo hauling and Verts blanking. Yeah, Watkins to Joao Pedro isn't a bad idea, Brooklyn, Joyce, but I still think, yes, Dylan, you're stubborn, but Watkins is a hold for me. Now, if he blanks against Palace, I'd be very concerned and I'd be open to selling him. But as much as I want Chris Wood for Gameweek 3, I think I'm keeping Watkins. I'm just not going to captain him again. Rodriff says, with possibly Palmer and Saka out, I'm going with both Salah and Haaland. Yeah, that would also be a very viable strategy at the moment. You've got 2 premiums, but then you sell them to the most expensive players in the game. If you can make that work, it isn't a bad idea, but you might need to make some compromises in other areas. Wow, Man City are finished, says Justin Palmer to Bruno Fernandes. Can't be asked with lukewarm bread. Bit racist. I'm joking. That's, yeah, sorry. Yeah, Bruno Fernandes, he's my immediate kind of like no-brainer pick to replace Palmer if needed. The fixture is great. I think he'll do well against Fulham tomorrow. I'm backing a low-scoring win for United, as I showed you earlier. And yeah, you've got Man City are finished still. Even last week you did when they won 4-0. But if City are finished, that gives Arsenal a chance to win the league. That's all I want. Anachronism says, should I hit the transfer and bring Gordon and Pedro before the Pedro rise, as you suggested? But I did say earlier that Pedro shouldn't go up in price today. If anything, it will be in a couple of days' time, and Palmer shouldn't go down in price just yet. So I don't think that's the right thing to do. Just wait a little bit. You might have some different ideas after the Sunday games, so if possible, I'd wait a little bit more. Abdul says, hi Dylan, how are you, pal? Yeah, all good. With Arsenal, it's more good than bad, but I don't know, maybe I'm just negative, but the Saka and Odegaard injuries concern me. For some reason, I was unsubscribed in YouTube. Yeah, no worries, mate. I do appreciate you tuning in, and yeah, for those that aren't aware, there is a subscribe button, a notification bell, a join button for the memberships, and you get early access to my videos and many other perks. Those links can be found in the description, and the same goes for my Patreon, which is patreon.com/FPL Dylan. Gordon in, Rogers out, Larson in, Watkins out. I like the Gordon move. I will not be selling Watkins. I think Larson's okay, by the way, but Watkins is still better. Marmoush or Bowen out first? Marmoush. Now, I said this before. I would sell Marmoush, but I think he starts against Tottenham Hotspur. But it was more of him starting against City because he was terrible today. He was an absolute op for the citizens. But yeah, Jared Bowen will still be more consistent with the minutes and the returns. I would keep Bowen for now. Abdul says, if you had a choice between Johnson and Kudus, who would you choose? Kudus for me. Would you go for Trippier or Gordon? I would not go for Trippier. I think Newcastle's best 11 would have Livramento on the right and Hall on the left. Trippier is not a guaranteed starter, so it's Gordon actually. Yeah, Depeche Mode, yeah. Yeah, that was the song I was talking about, but I can't remember the song now. Not Reach Out, Touch Faith, it's not Enjoy the Silence, or was it? I can't remember at this point. Palmer and Saka to Salah and Ndai. You want to buy Ndai? I mean, look, I hope Ndai does well and turns things around, but I need to see how he does tomorrow before making a move there. I'd keep Palmer and Saka for now, wait for more information, but my opinion at the moment is that Saka doesn't play against Liverpool, he won't be in the squad, and Palmer is kind of 50-50 right now. Eddie says, sorry Dylan, if you answered what to do with Palmer and Nuri. Yeah, I did answer this before. So I did highlight 2 players to replace them. So Munoz for Nuri, and for Palmer it would be Bruno Fernandes, but my advice is to hold them and wait for more information. Milcho says, Kudus and Semenyo price rising tonight. Should I take one of them for Palmer and Diop for Dorgu? No, because even if those midfielders go up in price tonight, Palmer is way more expensive. So you've got leeway when it comes to downgrading him for one of those cheaper midfielders. So is that extra 0.1, 0.2 million in the team value worth it when Palmer might potentially be back against Fulham? I think information is more important than price changes. I've always been consistent with that. Levin puts his team, what would you do if ruled out Saka and Palmer? I would sell one of them at least. Well, you got Bruno already. Maybe Gordon. I think Gordon would be a nice replacement. There is maybe a way for you to get Salah as well, if not Haaland up front. But I would say Palmer to Salah, and then Saka to Elliot Anderson, or... yeah, I think Elliot Anderson's fine. Even, yeah, Reinders is already in your team. Not sure about Caicedo since you've got... well, you've got Palmer on, but you can replace him with Caicedo, but... yeah, that's a good question. If Saka and Palmer are out, I would go to Salah if possible, and then a cheaper midfielder like Elliot Anderson. Not a bad shout on Big Gabby. Yeah, look, all bias aside, he might not be the best looking guy on my team, but I don't know. Him scoring is okay. Let me not. It's been a long day. Adil says, "Evening, Dylan. Hope you're well. Just been by to say hello. You must be happy with the result today, but obviously the injuries to Saka and Odegaard are worrying." Yes, and the main problem with that is we've got Liverpool away next, which is arguably the toughest fixture we will have all season. So, yeah, as much as people criticise Odegaard, he played okay against Man United. He had a decent start to this game and a solid pre-season. I think he'd be a massive loss. And Saka, it obviously goes without saying, he's the best Arsenal attacker that Arsenal have, obviously. But yeah, that is the only kind of downside. Obviously, the Eze announcement, the 5-0 win, top of the league is good, but it's early days, and I still think Liverpool will be very tough. Yeah, Max Dalman is not listed in FPL just yet. Yeah, Rio is listed, though, for Liverpool. And I think there's another youngster that isn't listed, but I can't remember the name. But yeah, he should be. He won a penalty today. He won a few in pre-season as well. And Dalman has such a great ceiling there. Sad you didn't pick Salah 8-pack. Well, I hope Salah blanks now, to be honest, but I don't think he will. What's Isak's ownership right now, and how long until it hits 0? It's never going to hit 0. There'll be dead teams with Isak, so he's always going to have at least 5% ownership, but I think right now it's below 10%. Wow, actually, it's 4.5. Yeah, it could hit like, what, 2%, 1%, but he's not going to 0.0. There's no chance. What are your thoughts on Arsenal's transfer window so far? And where do you think you'll finish this season? You could say I'm sitting on the fence, but I did say earlier it's either first or third. I don't think Arsenal finish second. It's difficult to say. I mean, I typically do a prediction table before the transfer window and after. And a few months ago, before we signed Gyökeres and Eze, I said third. I thought Liverpool and City got their transfers in early. They were looking decent, of course, in pre-season, especially City in the Club World Cup until that loss against Al Hilal. And I thought if Rodri was available from the beginning, I think City would be in a great position. But I'm going to go on a limb. I'll say Arsenal first. Please, one day. Difficult to say with City because I think they've only finished second once under Pep Guardiola. But yeah, it's close for me. But the top three, I'm quite settled on the names, but not the positions. I'm going to say Arsenal first. There's a bit of bias in there as well. I think Arsenal have had a great transfer window now. If they didn't get Eze, though, yeah, that's a different story. It's probably a 6 or 7 out of 10. But with Eze, I think that jumps up to a 9. I genuinely think he's a game-changing signing, just like Gyökeres. Those two are really the statement signings. And I think Zubimendi will go under the radar in the midfield. Varfield says, with Saka and Palmer maybe out, can we now go for a Salah hand draft? We always could, but I said this from the beginning, you have to make compromises with two of the most expensive players in the game. But certainly if Salah and Palmer are unavailable, it definitely gives you the funds and the option to go for Salah and Haaland at the same time. But I think if I were to sell Palmer in my case, whilst Haaland isn't ruled out, I think it's more likely I will go to Bruno Fernandes or Gordon. Yeah, Semenyo is a good option, and I'm looking at him actually. He might even be a consideration to replace Palmer, but yeah, that's a close one. I think Semenyo will be more consistent actually, and he'll score more goals than Kudus. Talismanic status with Spurs is probably on Richarlison at the moment, and soon to be on Solanke, I think. But yeah, I'm going to say Semenyo out of these two. But there is also a 0.7 million difference in price, at least until tonight, because Kudus should go up. I don't think Richarlison is nailed, but he will surely start in Game Week 3, yes. But when we talk about nailed, what about Game Week 4, 5? Obviously, we have an international break soon. Will Richarlison, definitely play if he gets some minutes for Brazil? There is no guarantee there, but I think Richarlison is the first choice striker at the moment. Any early news in terms of Odegaard and Saka? No, but what I'm going to do now, because I haven't seen it just yet, I literally got home after watching the game and set up the stream, is check the updates for Martin Odegaard and Bukayo Saka. Wow. By the way, Arteta did confirm Eze called them before signing for Spurs. That is crazy. So just saying, if you are a Spurs fan, enjoy your 2-0 win today. But that is crazy. Okay, so said this about Martin and Bakayo. That's the negative. Odegaard felt something in his shoulder. We'll have to scan that tomorrow. Bakayo felt something in his hamstring when he was running with the ball. Yeah, that's not good news. I think Saka's out for a couple of weeks, unfortunately. I think that did happen, says, I've got an extra 1.5 million. Where should I invest? Difficult to say, actually. You've got a solid squad. You could possibly, if Wirtz disappoints you and you are having maybe second thoughts about him, you could go to Bruno Fernandes there. But I'm looking at your squad. I don't like Van der Ven and Borro defensively, even though they've done very well for you so far. I think one's enough. I would actually say something like Van der Ven to... It's not really necessary though, is it? No, I don't think so. And next week you could start Borro, Cucurella and Munoz. That's fine. You're in a good position, mate. Now, upgrading King to a 6 million midfielder or somebody like Anderson just gives you another benching headache, I guess. But yeah, to be honest, I think if I had to make one transfer, it's probably Wirtz to Bruno Fernandes as a 1 week punt, if anything. How do you see the Isak situation ending? I think he'll go to Liverpool, but it might be a case of next summer than this one. But I don't see him moving in January. Gyökeres, my captain, fair play. I wish I had him and Arsenal players. Concert is available, but yeah, the main problem, of course, is Aston Villa's start to the season. More so from an attacking perspective. Gyökeres celebration from Bane from The Dark Knight. I think he was asked about that, and he didn't even mention The Dark Knight Rises. He just talked about his friend saying he needs a new celebration, something different. Thank you, Todd. Nice to see some quality content Sunday morning in Sydney. Well, enjoy your breakfast if you are having that, and thank you for tuning in. There are people from all over the world, Malaysia, Singapore, Brazil, Colombia, everywhere. I mean, let me know where you're watching from in the live chat. I'll try to read out as many countries as possible. It's always nice to see the diversity there. Need that mask on in every stream. Yeah, but when Arsenal inevitably lose a game or, you know, draw, and I'm a bit pissed, I might not be in the mood to do that, big man. I might just punch my laptop or my big camera. Johnson for Rodgers. No, as I said before, mate, I wouldn't go for Johnson. DM McDonald says, think after next weekend, I might use my wildcard with the window closing. Yeah, it's not a bad window to wildcard, and you've got more data than just one game week, but it's always a risk. I'm looking at game week 8 to wildcard. It's also around the time that Arsenal have a nice fixture swing. But yeah, there's no right time. It's also team dependent, of course. 2 weeks to tinker about with the team and see if Isak goes to Liverpool. Yeah, that's a fair point, and it's not just that. You might see another big signing for Man City, Arsenal, etc. Although I'd be shocked if Arsenal get another big name in, like Rodrigo on loan or something, but bienvenido sea, as they say. Yeah, Kudus again for me. I prefer him over Johnson, but I think in terms of goals, it'll be quite close, and maybe Johnson has the edge there, actually. But Kudus will get more assists, and I think he will start more games than Brennan Johnson this season. Yeah, Dango is definitely one to look at, but he's not really someone I'd prioritise. And let's not forget, Brentford won 1-0, and they were terrible in Game Week 1. And Dango Ouattara is very unreliable in front of goal. We saw that with Bournemouth last season. I would not sell Reinders. This is what I'm talking about. In Game Week 1, people are like, he's the best. Oh, 5.6, my brain. And then now he's terrible. Let's calm down a little bit. I think with Reinders, I talked about him being a long-term purchase. I still think that's the case. But Game Week 2 against Tottenham, I did say it in my transfer tips. Just check it out. I'm not lying. I'm not pulling the rug under your feet or whatever. I think Reinders is a long-term purchase, but against Tottenham, for some reason, Man City just can't do it against them. People want to get rid of Wirtz. Remember Burnley and Everton around the corner. Yeah, and Everton lost 1-0 against a Leeds side that just lost 5-0 to Arsenal. So definitely a good shout there. Thoughts on going big at the back? I like Calafiori and maybe James. Yeah, big at the back is a viable strategy. That's a good point by you, but I don't like Calafiori and James. Fair enough. Calafiori has been brilliant this season so far. He scored against United. He got another big return today. But he's injury prone. That is already enough to put me off. The same goes for Reece James, who didn't start yesterday. And you've also got Lewis Skelly knocking on the door. So, yeah, I'm afraid to say it. I might be boring, and that's why I'm sitting with 6 points from Gabriel and not the 12 pointed by Calafiori, but I just don't think long-term he's the solution. Yeah, Richarlison isn't a bad shout right now, but I'm still a little bit conflicted about him long-term. I think Solanke is still the better striker. If any viewer that is not fluent in English, you can sign into YouTube Studio and get subtitles in other languages. Yeah, that is true. That is true. Aston Villa attack is quite worrying. Should I avoid Watkins and Rodgers? Yeah, if you've got a double up, I'd be very concerned about that, and maybe trimming it down to 1 is the priority, but I wouldn't be looking to, you know, sell Watkins or Rodgers in Game Week 3 per se. I think they will get a goal or two and finally return because they've been awful in the first 2 match days of the season. Abdul says, I watched both Villa games. They have been awful. They can't keep hold of the ball. No fluency whatsoever. I would avoid all Villa assets until they get their act together. You might be right about that. I just think Watkins and Rodgers are quality players, and Villa don't always need that much possession to cause problems. If anything, they sometimes cause the biggest issues to teams when they've got those quick transitions and counterattacks like they did against Arsenal a few years ago. So, yeah, they're looking really poor at the moment, but things change very quickly. Look at Brentford, of course, from Game Week 1 to 2. With Burnley, I don't think they played that bad against Tottenham, but obviously they got a massive result against Sunderland, who were amazing in Game Week 1, and then all of a sudden they looked a little bit average in Game Week 2. Inside the 600k with Gyökeres captain, no Pedro, no Salah. It goes to show no one's essential, but Salah might have something to say on Monday night. Is getting Kudus already good because he will rise tonight? Well, you can't just look at things from a price perspective, but obviously that's a nice boost, and I'd rather have more team value than nothing, don't get me wrong. But I think Kudus is a nice investment because of the fixtures, and Tottenham are looking good so far. Gyökeres, Bane lines, no one cares who I was until I put on the mask. Yes, I prefer Joker, to be honest, which is kind of a boring thing to say, but yeah, Bane is a underrated villain in the Dark Knight trilogy. Gakpo, a keep or sell? He's a keep, for the time being anyway. Cracked Ace says, I'm tempted to wildcard, chasing the price rises, and to get Haaland and Salah. I still think it's too early, but it is team dependent. Twisted Parky says, first time I've ever had 2 players from a newly promoted team return in a week. Yeah, I'm still waiting for that, big man, because I had Dubravka on my bench, and I went for Renildo, who was an absolute bum. Oh, to be fair, though, he got 3 points. I actually forgot that. So he got defensive contributions. Wow, that goes to show you what... Wow, I literally just came here and reacted to it. I was unaware of the DEFCON, so thank you for the sympathy points, FPL. Appreciate it. Fly with Corey says, international break after this Liverpool game is good for the Arsenal injuries. Yeah, that's the good thing about it, actually, even though Arsenal obviously had that massive win today, and if they beat Liverpool, which is a big if, you know, that would be, you know, you don't want to end that sort of momentum because you want to go to the next game immediately. But yeah, Liverpool is going to be tough, and that is the most difficult fixture that Arsenal will have this season on paper. Maz says, is free hit gimmick free a good choice? Can get United mids in, triple Forest, Newcastle assets, and avoid Arsenal and Liverpool. I'm considering it. I'm not ruling out completely, and with the injuries to Palmer and Saka, who you might want back for gimmick 4, that could actually be the play for some people. Yeah, just can't get enough. Thank you for reminding me. Yeah, I haven't even listened to the song in its entirety for a long while, but yes, that is by Depeche Mode. Bohemian Rashu, sorry. Got Palmer and Saka. If both seriously injured, worth a free hit? Yeah, I think so. And of course, with the extra chips this season, I'm not against that whatsoever. Yeah, he meant Ndoye from Forest. Yeah, thanks for correcting me. Yeah, Ndoye would be a bit of a weird one after what he did in Game Week 1. I'm still not sure about that. I'd rather go for Chris Wood, but why not go for any Forest midfielder, even Elliot Anderson as a holding midfielder against West Ham? But yeah, I think Ndoye's not a bad shout in that Game Week 3 fixture. Thanks for the correction, because I wouldn't have got that otherwise. Should I... Also, thank you to Easy. Oliver says, should I keep Bowen until Game Week 6? I'm not sure if you should keep him for that long, but I think he's worth keeping for at least another week. And to be honest, you might sell him in Game Week 6, and then by Game Week 7 or 8, when he faces Arsenal, he's going to return there, and then you're like, why didn't I keep him for another week or two? But timing is so important. You need some luck there when it comes to the purchases and sellings as well. But yeah, getting Haaland in and Salah out, I'm not so sure about that. I mean, if Salah goes ballistic on Monday, everyone's going to now go back to Salah in terms of the sort of pushing in the FPL narrative. What about Kudus? I don't think he's a spectacular FPL asset, but he'll do quite well at 6.5, soon to be 6.6 million. Is Eze a better pick in an Arsenal jersey? That is a great question. I'm not necessarily sure about that. He's surrounded by better players, but he'll also be rotated more or be subbed off a little bit. And also, he's not going to take as many set pieces as he would at Crystal Palace. But I think he'll be the #1 free kick taker. He'll be 4th in line for penalties, something like that. And for corners, yeah, I think he'll be 3rd or 4th for corners as well, because Rice and Saka are 2 of the best takers in the league. Yeah, Okafor is interesting. I'd probably be more intrigued by Ndoye at the moment, but yeah, Okafor is definitely one to look at, actually. Yeah, for Leeds United, I think that could be a very interesting signing. I was quite surprised by that. But I probably wouldn't invest right now. It's a wait and see. Wildcard next week to make 4 at the back. Maybe free hit, though. That could be another solution as well. Weiseng says Liverpool and City both bad this season. Not feeling it, and Chelsea were never a league team, so Arsenal to do it. It's too early to say that Liverpool and City are bad. I mean, a lot of people were impressed by City last week against Wolves. To win 4-0 away against any team is impressive, and Liverpool still got the job done. I think defensively they will be very suspect, and that's why I personally, and maybe it ages horribly, I don't think Liverpool win the league. But yeah, I think City, you can't rule them out. You can never do that with Pep Guardiola. Rodrev says, looking forward to watching Palace without Eze. Is Mateta a better or worse option now? I think he's worse. Whether it's Deveni or Roman Esse on the left, and I think it'll be Deveni, I don't think that is going to be an upgrade, and Palace need to invest in that position and replace Eze accordingly. As a Liverpool fan, I wasn't worried about Arsenal's window, even when you got Gyökeres, but signing Eze is scary for the rest of the league. Hopefully we get Isak over the line before the window closes. Well, that's what I mean. If Isak goes to Liverpool, that pendulum kind of switches or swings towards Liverpool again. And yeah, I think Eze is a game changer. For me personally, though, if Arsenal got Eze and not Gyökeres, I still think Arsenal need that striker. So both were necessary. The fact that Arsenal got both of them done, and they got Norgard, Kepa, Mosquera, Zubimendi, that is where things are looking very positive, and hopefully Madueke can be good as well. Palmer out, even if he's not injured, overpriced in my opinion. Only 7 goals scored this year. And from open play, he scored none since January against Bournemouth, actually. Would you speculate on the score for the Liverpool-Newcastle game? Well, I have actually done this on my channel already. I went for a 2-2 draw, as you can see now. And I do highlight my different graphics like top 10 captains, clean sheet odds, and scoreline predictions in different videos, but also in all my deadline streams. So you can see this before the deadline locks in. So all of this hasn't been changed. I'm not going to pull a Houdini on you or just take the piss. This is what I did before yesterday's deadline. What teams do we focus on, seeing as top picks are shaky or plagued by injuries? After almost 2 game weeks worth of data, it's hard to say. You know, some people are saying City and Liverpool are poor or not that great this season. I disagree. It's too early to say. But yeah, I think for the next 3-4 game weeks, Chelsea would be worth doubling up on potentially. With Arsenal, I think 1's enough with their fixtures. I wouldn't double or triple up right now. The best time to invest in Arsenal is game week 7. With Liverpool, game week 4. So apart from that, you're looking at, I think Bournemouth might be worth doubling up on with Semenyo and then Truffert at the back, or you go for a central defender like Diakate or Senesi. Even Petrovic in goal is okay, I guess. But I think that will switch every single game depending on the fixtures and the FDR. So Vaglis says Boston, Pratik says Mumbai, India. Oliver says Norway. Simon F says Heidelberg, Germany. And I know you said this a long time ago. Sorry, lads and lasses. Martin says hello from Finland. Kimi Räikkönen, Mika Hakkinen, come on, lad. Sakalito says, had Saka, Inuri and Palmer. Guess our wildcard. It looks likely, or maybe free hits, because we do have an international break shortly afterwards, and some of these players could be back by game week 4 or 5. So I would be open-minded. It doesn't mean you have to wildcard. Maybe you just free hit, or maybe 2 of these players are available, and you just use a free transfer to get rid of the other one. So keep them for now. Reassess your options in a couple of days' time with more information. I think a free hit could be nice, actually, for a lot of people. Latvia is another one there. And yeah, can I call you Martins? Obviously, there's a few accents in there. Takion says Lithuania. So thank you very much. So people from all over the world. I was going to say all over the gaff, but maybe people are like, what are you saying, lad? Vaglis says, would you do Palmer, Fulkrug to Semenyo and Pedro/Wood this week? I have Salah, Wirtz, Reinders, Bruno and Watkins. So I'm going to go back to my team so you can also see the highlight comments. and keep track of the messages, but what the hell? Okay, there you go. It's a good question. If Palmer is out, I'd say yes. And I still prefer Joao Pedro over Chris Wood long term, but for Gameweek 3, Chris Wood is the better captaincy option against West Ham. Good forward line, by the way. I don't think Watkins is a must-sell. If the sale of Isak and Strand Larsen go through, we could build a dream team by downgrading Palmer to Eze. Potentially, but Eze is facing Liverpool, Forest, City and Newcastle over the next 4, so not great fixtures to start his Arsenal career, but Eze is a big game player, in my opinion. Finn Orbat says, I've got Rodgers and Palmer. Would you transfer either of them out? I know Palmer is a bit overpriced at the moment, but if he's fit, I'd keep him. It's kind of 50-50 at the moment, and with Rodgers, it's more of a case of a lack of form. So I'd probably keep both of them for now. If Palmer is ruled out, I'd sell him to Bruno Fernandes. And if you're not fancying United, especially with their kind of short-term fixtures, you could go for Newcastle, who have better fixtures in the next 2, at least. Lucas says there's 43 points with 4 players left, okay? Yeah, I think so. Cunha, Bruno, Mbuma and Munoz. Yeah, the only downside is you don't have Salah, who is very highly owned. But I think that triple up in United, which might seem crazy, I think that could do really well tomorrow. And Daniel Munoz, a lot of avenues to points, so yeah, you're in a good position, mate. If Forest lose Nuno, they might not be as good. I completely agree, and that is the only thing that puts me off Chris Wood and buying Forest assets right now, which includes Elliot Anderson. A new manager would also have different ideas, and they might have different favourites. Whilst that defensive line should be unchanged, we could see a few modifications in that midfield and forward line. Mohammed says, I think to ship out Watkins and Rodgers. Yeah, they've been poor. There's no denying it. I'm not saying you have to keep them, but I just have a good feeling about at least one of them in Gameweek 3. I mean, they can't keep blanking forever, and both of them have been amongst the best FPL assets in recent seasons, particularly Watkins, of course. Is McAtee from Nottingham Forest a quality differential? I don't think he'll start in Gameweek 3. He should get some minutes off the bench, and in Gameweek 4, we might see him push for a start, but I don't think that'll happen, actually. So it's more of a case of wait and see. You can sometimes get these players off the bench, like Cherky in Gameweek 1, who can still get the goal, but I'm not necessarily sure about that. Yeah, Silly Bear, the Yokeris captain worked out. I wish I was there with you, but unfortunately, I was with Ollie Watkins. Homan says, downgrading Palmer and getting Pedro. My whole week is ruined because of Joao Pedro. Yeah, the thing is, though, how would you go about it? Do you sell Palmer to Bruno Fernandes, and then who are you selling to get Pedro? I'm not so sure about that, but it does depend. I think Eze will take free kicks over Rice, though. I know Rice scored 2 amazing free kicks against Real Madrid, but I mean, I'm not going to say it's a 1 or 2 off, but Eze is a more consistent free kick taker, at least with the direct ones. You'll also see Odegaard on them. He took a not so good one today, I think. But yeah, I think Eze will take free kicks. Do you think Johnson's a better pick than Kudus? As I said a few times before, no, I prefer Kudus. Welcome to Jordet. Hello from a Dane in Norway. Thank you for your great content as always. Thank you very much, and a nice combination there. A Dane in Norway. Nice ring to it. What do you think your wildcard team would look like for next week? It's too early to say, and I want to see the Sunday and Monday game first. But yeah, I think Salah and Haaland, that sort of draft could come back into the equation. I probably wouldn't go for Palmer and Saka. Joao Pedro would be in there. But I also talked about these sort of things in my recent free hit and wildcard squads as well. How many Premier League players do you think play FPL? Difficult to say, but quite a lot. Even Salah is quite big on it as well. If you had to pick one of Cunha or Mbuma, who would you pick? Cunha. That's just the gut feeling I've had from pre-season. I also just think he'll do better. The personality, the position he played, and the same formation at Wolves. I just think he'll translate better in this United side than Mbuma. LLJ says, how are we so bad? We got Gravenberch back for Newcastle. He is so important for us, and he helps the defence behind him. We won't concede much with Gravenberch in the team. Yeah, Liverpool can still win the league, by the way. I never said that. In fact, I said the opposite. I just think, personally, what I did say about Liverpool is I think they won't win the league, which might age horribly, but they still have a chance, of course. Yeah, Gravenberch is obviously a big plus there for Liverpool. And also with Frimpong, as good as he is offensively, I think him missing out for the Arsenal game might actually play into Liverpool's hands because they can have a more defensively solid option, and he'll be up against either Martinelli, Eze, or what, Madueke? But I very much doubt that because I think Saka misses out. Adil says, good to hear from you, Dylan. Have a good bank holiday weekend. If I see you live throughout the season, I'll drop in to say hello when I can. Can't wait for the Liverpool-Arsenal game next week. Take care. I can't wait for Monday night because it's a neutral game. I can just sit back, enjoy, and it should be fireworks. But I keep hyping this game up. It might just be absolute, just like Ollie Watkins this week. Have any thoughts on Rangers this game week? I'm not too surprised about him blanking against Tottenham. I said this in my transfer tips. I think the best time to buy him is game week 3, but he is not a sell. Do not sell Rangers. I think he is still a quality FPL asset. Zane says, what to do with Fulkrug, eat up the price drop tonight and sell later by selling Palmer and upgrading him, or selling for Igor, Thiago, Strand Larsen. I have 0.5 in the bank, 2 free transfers. Yeah, I think Fulkrug is a sell. Obviously a bit unfortunate with the disallowed goal, but it was offside. I think what you should do, if Palmer is out, I'd sell him to the likes of Fernandes, Gordon, etc., who I talked about earlier, and use those funds to upgrade Fulkrug. And ideally, you'd go to Joao Pedro if you don't have him. If not, you're looking at one of Chris Wood. Yeah, I think that's probably where you go. The 2 strikers you mentioned aren't bad. I think they're decent options, but yeah, I'm not too keen on Strand Larsen or Wolves players at the moment. Got Timber last year, nothing, then injured, now he smashes it. Yeah, 24 points, whatever you got is incredible. No one expected that, but that is football for you sometimes. It is full of surprises. I was going to say I'm going to refresh this and, you know, see what the bonus points are saying, but I got no bonus points today. Yeah, absolutely amazing. But what I will do before ending the stream is reading out the BPS from the matches today. And yeah, once again, it's a late stream. It's almost 11 PM in the UK. Thank you to those that are tuning in. I've been going live for 2.5 hours. Wow. Time flies when you're having fun. So we are 11 likes away from 200. Let's make sure to get to that by the end of the stream. Thank you to those that have already sent in their comments, the super chats, the subscriptions. We are closing in on 35,000 subscribers. Let's make sure to do that by October. And in the last 2 streams, basically, this one included, we've gotten 200 subs. So thank you very much for the support. It is greatly appreciated. So let's read out these BPS. And we'll close that Palmer update and also the Saka one. Basically, we don't have too much clarity on those situations right now, but it doesn't look good for Odegaard, Saka, and Palmer. So with the BPS, let's go to yesterday's game, even though that was obviously, you know, I think most of us are well versed in who got the BPS. But Joao Pedro got 3, Lucas Paqueta got 2, which is quite impressive, and Moises Caicedo got 1. And guess what? He didn't get DEFCON, but he wasn't too far off. That Ecuadorian is going to be quite good in FPL this season. In the Spurs-Man City game, the bonus points went to Joao Paulinho, Vicario, and Brennan Johnson, but Vicario and Johnson shared 2. In the Bournemouth-Wolves game, Tavernier with 3, Diakate with 2, and Senesi with 1. Semenyo was nowhere near it, thankfully. No offense to any Semenyo owners, but congratulations on the points. I'm a bit salty, yeah? Just a bit of tongue-in-cheek, I guess. In the Brentford 1 Villa 0 game, Captain Watkins, what an idiot. Dango Watara got 3 bonus points on his Brentford debut. Coyote got 2, and Collins, who someone asked me about yesterday, got 1. And guess what? He also got DEFCON. Just like Dango, that is incredible. Damsgaard as well, Yarmoliuk, Van den Berg. Very well played. Very well played. Coyote also got DEFCON, by the way, because defenders only need 10 defensive actions. Midfielders and forwards need 12. Burnley 2, Sunderland 0. The bonus points went to Cullen, who scored the opening goal. Jadon Anthony, who doubled the lead, gets 2. And Ekdal gets 1 bonus point. And Estev didn't get defensive contribution points, but Ekdal did. And that also helped him in the BPS. Arsenal 5, Leeds 0. The bonus points went to Timber, Shock, with 3 bonus points. Yokres with 2. And Calafiori does it again with 1. The Italian stallion is doing business this season. Next week, one of the best to go against Salah. Yeah, I think so. And I'm also considering a free hit, actually. It's something I'm really entertaining. A few people mentioned it in the live chat. I think it's a great suggestion. Mode says, I come from Malaysia, long time not joining your live. Sorry, here I am again. No need to be sorry, mate. I appreciate you tuning in. It's very late. Isn't it like 4 a.m. there? So thank you very much for joining in this very early or late deadline stream, depending on how you see it. Dawood says, I go over Salah and I have 55 points with 3 players left. Yeah, Salah could burn you a little bit on Monday, but that should be a green arrow. I think that's a very good position to be in. So well played. I think one of Sarr or Munoz should do something for you, and Ekatike isn't too shabby either. The transfer in, please rank. Yeah, so I think I said this earlier. Semenyo first, Gordon second, Rodgers third right now, Matthias. Any signs of Sterling going anywhere? Don't go anywhere. Don't go anywhere. Stay at Chelsea. Yeah, honestly, I have no idea. I think it was linked with Napoli a few days ago. Don't go to Arsenal, please. Should I go for Chris Wood selling Watkins? It's not a bad shout. I think Chris Wood looks really enticing against West Ham, but I wouldn't sell Watkins still. And yeah, that could be the death of me, as usual. Herman says, I'll swap Palmer to a 7.5 mid and upgrade Guiu to Joao Pedro maybe. Yeah, that's a decent shout. It's just a shame that you can't go to Cunha, Mbuma or Fernandes with those funds, but that's a decent option. Maybe Kudus could be the replacement in the midfield, but it's only if Palmer is out, because I still think he's a top 10, maybe top 5 captaincy option against Fulham if he's available. Thank you, Safair. As he says, smash the like. Kudus and Semenyo price rise imminent tonight. Thoughts on early transfers bringing in either one? Look, if people are really bullish on a certain transfer like Semenyo or Kudus, I don't think it's a bad move. I just don't like the fact that you haven't seen the Sunday games, and obviously Monday night. Injuries could happen there as well, suspensions, and you might have different ideas by the end of the game week. And you also have the Palmer situation. For those that are looking to sell Palmer, he might be available in Game Week 3, so selling him could backfire massively. So it's difficult to say if it's the right course of action, but my kind of opinion most of the time is to have the information rather than chasing the team value. But I completely get why people are doing it. No worries, Rabbi. Thank you for the like as well. I appreciate it. Nasi says, move Haaland out and bring Joao Pedro. I'd keep Erling Haaland still against Brighton away. But yeah, Joao Pedro, he'll be up there amongst forwards. There's no doubt about it. He's had a great Chelsea career so far, but I'd keep Erling Haaland. Zane says, Watkins and Joao Pedro, the other 2 strikers. Who was the other one? Let me just check, because you said this before. Fulkrug. Yeah, that's fair enough. Yeah, your forward line is good. Obviously, Fulkrug is the weak link. I probably do what I discussed earlier, but maybe go for Chris Wood instead, of course, at a similar price to Joao Pedro. I'm cooking whilst the stream is on. Salmon, rice, red spicy lentils, egg, parthas, edible limes, and kimchi. Oh, you're making me hungry, mate. I haven't eaten since... And I'm not asking for sympathy. I'm doing it again, just like last week, but I haven't eaten in like... Really, that long? It's been almost 10 hours. I gotta eat, bro. What to do with Rodgers and Watkins? Well, having a double up is definitely a concern because Villa haven't scored a goal so far this season. Rodgers was particularly poor today. I'd be more keen on keeping Watkins, actually, but yeah, it's a difficult one. Maybe trim it down to 1. So am I, Twisted Parky. So am I. There's no way you're still streaming. Dylan is the FPL GOAT. Thank you very much. Or maybe it says, what, sheep? No, it looks like a... What's the other one? No, that's deer. Jesus, my animal knowledge is not there at the moment. It was better once upon a time. Half my team is dead. It can seem that way. I also have similar opinions of my team, but it's early days. Tielemans to Kudus for a -4. Not for a -4 for me. I do like Kudus. I think he's an upgrade on Tielemans, but for a hit, I'm not really convinced about it. Time to pull the trigger on the wildcard or the free hit. It might seem very early to use that chip, but obviously we have doubled the number of chips this season. And to be honest, I think for a lot of people, especially those with 8 Nuri, Saka, Palmer, with these players potentially back in Game Week 4, I think it might be very nice to free hit this week. You saw a lot of problems for the upcoming deadline, and then you've got plenty of time to evaluate injuries, suspensions, maybe things that happen over the international break in Game Week 4. So I'd maybe lean towards the free hit over the wild card at the moment. Shazwan says, I got 45 points. I still have Sesko, Gakpo, Nico Williams, and Dorgu. It is okay, despite me saying that was over my own English. Yeah, that's a decent score. Good players left. The only downside is you have no Erling Salah. Salah? Yeah, you got no Salah. Jesus, it's been a long day. I do like Gakpo, to be fair. Nico Williams and Dorgu. I could see one of them keeping a clean sheet, and in my predictions, I went for 1-0 to Man United, actually, so that could be pretty decent. You can eat during the stream, or I mean snack. That is true. That is true. But to be honest, yeah, I mean, I don't want to be like, yeah, like, let's have some table manners and stuff as well. Will Pedro get subbed on for Palmer? Yeah. And that's why I've got 38 points on the left-hand corner of your screen, because in my starting 11 right now, I've actually got 33. So because of Pedro Weed, aka Porro, he is giving me 5 additional points. Safair says, I know it's risky. I don't do early transfers, but this season price changes come around quick with the record number of FPL managers. I'll probably hold off, but it's tempting. Yeah, that definitely plays a part in our kind of temptation to buy players in early. That is certainly a very good point. But every season, it seems to get bigger. The numbers, of course, we've got 10 million players already. That should go up to 12, 13 million by the end of the season. But there's also a lot of dead teams and second accounts. Michael Lemmer says 45 points now. I have 3 players left, 2 from Nottingham, Anderson, Williams, and Tarkovsky. I don't think Everton keep a clean sheet. I wouldn't really mind, no offense to Stupaki, just because of Ndai and the points I need. I'm a bit desperate. I think Forest, I've gone for a 1-1 in that game. And in the Brighton-Everton game, I've gone for 2-1 Brighton. But yeah, a clean sheet is certainly possible. I don't think they'll be smacked. Yeah, and Boots is saying no. But hopefully you get something there, Michael. If Salah captaincy and vice-captain Salah after Palmer injury hits big, what rank do you predict for Gameweek 2? Yeah, if Salah goes big, I think I'll go to 4 million, to be honest. Yeah, I'm going to say it right now. I do have Gakpo, which is okay, and I've got Murillo, tomorrow, and Ndai, but I really need some returns from the others. I think I'll go down to 3 or 4 million, actually. Latte, nice. I think I'll have mint tea. I had peppermint tea for breakfast. It's good for digestion and not too bad on the stomach, but yeah. Have emergency jelly babies. Well, I ate a fruit before starting, so yeah, I'm not, starving myself for the stream, so to speak, but yeah, I did the same thing last week where I went to the pub to watch the games. So yeah, it's definitely worth me watching the games over again, especially Sunday and Monday. We haven't even seen them happen yet, and then I can, draw more conclusions from those matches. Spurs should sign Carlos Canuto. Oh yeah, okay, wait, I'm being a stupid idiot here. I think that is a good joke there, but I think my brain is fried right now. I think I need that explained to me. I'm sorry. And when you explain a joke, it kind of ruins it. But yeah, sorry, mate. I'm just not there on the wavelength at the moment. Ndai can score as long as we win. Yeah, but if he does the celebration again, the Seagulls, you're not going to be very happy with that, mate. Palmer to Johnson, Gear to Wood. I'm not really there on Johnson, to be honest. And with Palmer, I'd keep him, wait for more information. But if he is out, I am looking at selling him to Bruno Fernandes, Gordon, or just free hitting. 2 free transfers, 0.4 in the bank. I know you don't like Johnson, but he is scoring man. Some good fixtures coming up. Well, yeah, look, he scored in back-to-back games. He's not a terrible pick. He's going to start most games at left wing, but I still think Spurs can upgrade on that position, and Johnson should be a squad player if Spurs want to finish in the Champions League spots and also compete for trophies as well. Easy says, I predict Salah captaincy hit 20 points plus bonus. I really hope you're wrong, but I think you'll get 2 goal contributions, unfortunately. Ivan says, wasn't satisfied with my team after Game Week 1 and Game Week 2. Not going well so far. Palmer and Watkins troubling me. Yeah, same here. Watkins captain makes it even worse, but I said this to other people before. I don't know your squad, which can also play a part in whether you should do one thing or the other, but I would maybe consider the free hit. I'm waiting for updates on Palmer and all these players is also going to help a lot of people. I free hitted this game week and I'm currently on 48 points with only triple Palace defense left. Wow, that's a very bold call. What score above the weekly average would you class as a success? I mean, it depends a lot on the game week because, for example, in a low-scoring week, like you know, in a blank game week where people score 20, 30 points, if you score 50 more, that'll be like gold to you. But in a high scoring week, maybe you'd want 20, 30 extra points. But that's sort of the ballpark you're looking at. And if you're gaining more, and I think I did it last season, I gained a lot of points from the free hit. That's where you can easily class it as a success. But yeah, triple Palace defense is certainly bold. Hopefully they can keep Chris Wood out tomorrow. If you transfer out Watkins, who would you bring? It's between Chris Wood, Erling Haaland, which also depends on Cole Palmer being sold. And I think the other one I'd be looking at is... I'm not looking at Gyökeres just yet. That'd be a game week 7 sort of thing, maybe game week 4. But I think Liverpool away is the worst fixture for Arsenal. And I even prefer City at home, actually, on paper. But yeah, it's probably going to be one of Chris Wood or Erling Haaland. Hieronimo says Palmer/Fulkrug to Gordon and Joao Pedro, or Wood, 2 free transfers. I do like those moves, to be fair. I'm going to say Gordon and Joao Pedro long term. Chris Wood is better than Joao Pedro for game week 3 only, but if you're looking a bit beyond that and at least medium to long term, I'm going to say Joao Pedro. I just think Chelsea are worth covering offensively. Joao Pedro's had a brilliant impact in the summer, and obviously yesterday he was incredible. 73 points so far with the bench boost, and your captain Gyökeres, so really well played from you. Yeah, Porro Canuto. I just say, yeah, that is a good joke. I don't really say Canuto, to be honest, so I've learnt something new there. How do you rate Fernandes in FPL in terms of Cunha, Mbeumo and Sesko? As I said before, I think Fernandes is still number 1 because he can get defensive contributions, he can score, assist, he's got penalties. Cunha would be second for me, and Mbeumo third. I think Sesko needs more time to bed into the league. He might not even start tomorrow, although I'm not ruling it out. But Mason Mount could still get those starts at left forward, and then Cunha is up front. But yeah, for me, Fernandes is still number 1, but I think the goals will be shared at Man United, it's fair to say. He can score 1 max, though, when I had him last season. Yeah, I get that. We all have our kind of FPL trolls. I did cover the price changes earlier. I'll go for it one more time, but it's probably close to bedtime for some people. And for me, it's close to ending stream time. I have been live for almost 3 hours. So if we go to livefpl.net, I'm going to refresh it as well for the latest updates. Work, damn it. What the hell was happening? I think the website is just like taking its time. I'm going to use this. I'm going to type in the 2. That should help the website. Apparently not. Don't tell me I'm still live, right? Is it just this website? Yeah, okay. Semenyo, Kudus, Reinders and Cash could go up in price tonight. Why Matty Cash? Don't ask me. Price falls, the list is really long. I read it out earlier. I'll just highlight the kind of main FPL assets. I guess Kai Havertz, but he was never really in our thinking. Yeah, none of these are interesting. Foden, also not really interesting nowadays. This is looking like a stinky list. Florian Wirtz could go down in price tonight, by the way, for those that are interested. So yeah, that is probably the kind of biggest news. Lewis Hall, who could be worth a punt in game week 3 and 4. But at the moment, Trippier and Livramento are the starting fullbacks. Long term, that won't be the case. Joao Pedro performs because he plays number 10 position behind the striker. After Palmer's back, Joao Pedro will not become explosive, right? Well, if you look at game week 1 and 2 in isolation, that might be a fair observation. But what about the Club World Cup, where Joao Pedro and Palmer combined together, including the final against PSG? They both linked up for one of the goals. I think both of them will actually get the best out of each other. And I think Esteval, playing alongside Palmer, will also help Palmer get more returns. So I don't think that's necessarily the case, actually. What's the news on Saka and Palmer's injury? I covered this earlier. With Palmer, he felt things throughout the week, and he felt something in the training yesterday, so in the warm-up, and they didn't risk it. So it doesn't sound too good, but I think I'm more optimistic about Palmer than Saka, who had a hamstring problem. He felt his hamstring during the Leeds game, and I think he won't play against Liverpool, but I hope I'm wrong. Ekitike out and Sesko Richarlison in. I'd rather keep Ekitike, especially with Burnley away in game week 4. If you had to buy one of them in, it's probably Richarlison, but that's really short term. If Richarlison hasn't risen yet, I might have gone for him. Is he going to keep starting for Spurs? He will in Game Week 3, but I still think over the long term, yeah, Solanke's still the better striker. He should be the number 9 for Tottenham Hotspur. So I'm going to go back to my team for a little bit. FPL Challenge, I got 12 points. I forgot to change Cole Palmer, who was my captain there. I once lived in a street in Granada called Calle del Porro. Great name. Yeah, that is a really good name. There's a lot of good names, actually, in Spain, Argentina. I've been to both several times. Calum says, also, hello from Cardiff, Wales. Big up to yourself. I have a front three of Wood, Joao Pedro and Richarlison. Nice. I've transferred in Watkins and Ndai out to bring in Richarlison, who seems to be Spurs' top striker, and Kudus. Yeah, he is at the moment. That could change long term, but that shouldn't be a concern in the next couple of weeks. And I'd be surprised if Solanke started in Game Week 3, actually. But yeah, that front three looks really solid now. I will not be changing anything more now ahead of the upcoming deadline. I prefer Cunha over Mbumo, as mentioned before, mate. Thank you, Geronimo. Would Isak be worth it if he joins Liverpool this summer? Yes, but I do think he's not as enticing as he would be at Newcastle, where he is the undisputed talisman. Jonathan says, I currently have 2 free transfers with Wirtz and Palmer in my team. If Palmer is confirmed out, I'm debating getting Gordon and Bruno or possibly potentially free hitting. Yeah, okay, that's fair enough. I'm also looking at free hitting as well. I think that's a very good strategy for a lot of people, which is quite underrated, actually. So, Wirtz isn't really a priority sell. Palmer could be, obviously, if he's injured. They won't drop all those players. Yeah, I agree, Twisted Parky. Not all of them will go down in price, only a handful. If not tonight, Wirtz will drop in price tomorrow. That's what Fantasy Football Hub are saying at the moment, yeah. Sava says, hey, my team is Sanchez, Dubravka, Van der Ven, De Kuiper, Van Dijk, Reinders, Wirtz, Palmer, Rodgers, Haaland, Joao Pedro and Watkins. What do you think for Game Week 3? 2 free transfers, and I want Palmer out and 1 more. Well, I still think Palmer could be worth holding if he's available, but if you're quite keen on selling, I'd consider Bruno Fernandes or Gordon to replace Cole Palmer, and then using those funds to... I mean, to be fair, you could just roll with the rest, but maybe upgrade De Kuiper to Daniel Munoz. Yeah, 8 Nuri probably out of the equation for Game Week 3 anyway. Gabriel, you probably don't invest in against Liverpool away. Long term, it's a good transfer though. But you could even roll feasibly, but I think you'd probably just target one of Fernandes, Gordon, or any of those attackers, I think, from Newcastle United. Newcastle and Man United, that is. But yeah, I think Fernandes is my favourite. Do you think this Joao Pedro haul is highly unlikely to happen again? Well, yes, it's worth noting that West Ham were terrible. I think that's definitely worth highlighting there. I don't think any other team is that bad right now. Well, 8 goals conceded would back up your claim, but it is early days as well, and ultimately, it's still a very impressive return from him. Matty Cash is taking most of Villa's corners and set pieces, might be the reason for his rise. Still weird though. Yeah, I think the clean sheet in Game Week 1 helped and the DEFCON points he got, but obviously blank today, that might also halt the progress a little bit. That's a long stream. What time do you usually stream until? Well, because recently I've been I've been arriving home late. Then I set up the stream. Then I start at like 8:30 p.m. in the UK. So then, yeah, if I go 2.5, 3 hours, if people are still here, then yeah, I'm going to be finishing at what, 11:30. That's what we're looking at the moment. But I'm going to answer a few more questions and then wrap up because I've covered a lot already. There's a lot of content headed your way where I can analyze things in more detail. And I think it's worth waiting for those Sunday, Monday games for other topics as well to kind of finalize our transfer plans. But what the kind of purpose of this is to get our initial thoughts across, and then we can compare it across the week to how things develop with more data and games being played. How many FPL managers will triple captain Salah versus Burnley in Game Week 4? Yeah, Salah himself will likely do it. He's a cocky bastard, but that's not a bad thing. He backs it up most of the time. I think a lot of people will do it, but you've also got Erling Haaland facing all 3 newly promoted clubs in the first half of the season at home. So, yeah, Haaland will also be under serious consideration as well. Saka out, injured anyway, plus tough game versus Liverpool. Mbumo in. I prefer Bruno Fernandes and Cunha over Mbumo, but that's very close. If you're bullish on Mbumo, that's not a bad transfer to replace Bukayo Saka. Linus J says, I've hit the wildcard, Dylan. Any ideas on who I should get on? I mentioned some players earlier, so one of Haaland or Salah, maybe even both. Joao Pedro, so very template players so far. I would still recommend a Forest defender or Sells in goal. And the same goes for Sanchez in goal or Cucurella to cover Chelsea defensively. I still like an Arsenal defender long term. Wow, that is crazy. Yeah, a goal has just been scored. Wow, that scared the fucking shit out of me. Fucking hell. Sorry about that. Wow. Yeah. Yeah, I think an Arsenal defender is still a good long-term investment. It's probably worth waiting a few more days for the other observations. And I think by the time we see the Sunday matches and the Monday game, I think I'll build a very solid wildcard team for you. But based on what I built a few days ago, I think some of it is still valid, but there is definitely room for improvement. And Gameweek 2 has shown that things are very volatile at this moment in time. Peter says, sell Wirtz, Fulkrug for Kudus and Mateta. It's not a bad option at all. I think that's actually a really good duo. You're upgrading overall. I'm not a huge fan of selling Wirtz, especially with Burnley away around the corner, but as a duo, I think Kudus Mateta is better. H. Lehman says, was going to do Palmer to Haaland, so I have Salah and Haaland draft, but it's too much compromise on the other areas. Yeah, I think that's one of my issues with that sort of structure as well. I think in the wildcard video, I will be showing a Haaland and Salah draft, and then one with just one of them in there with a more balanced team overall. So yeah, that's definitely a good debate to have there for FPL, and it's good to see different strategies flying around. Palmer, Marlin and Frimpong should have wildcard. If Palmer's available, I'd keep, to be fair. The priorities for you should be Frimpong and Daniel Marlin because he just doesn't start enough games. The Champions League kicks off in September. The draw is made on the 28th of August, basically next Friday. FPL Glory says 2 free transfers, Palmer to Mbeumo and Rota to Semenyo, and give Watkins a last chance versus Palace. I like the look of that. That's another person saying Mbeumo, by the way. I don't know why. I just prefer Cunha. I think he's going to suit that Amorim system a little bit better than Mbeumo, who obviously has played in the back three before. But I just think with Amad Diallo potentially starting on the right as well, we could see those two sharing a lot of goals on that right flank, whilst Cunha will be more talismanic in a way. And Bruno Fernandes has penalties. He's got DEFCON potential as well. No, crack days. Otherwise, I would not have any rest. And I also want to plan content throughout the week. I also do UCL fantasy videos. So yeah, if I do a reaction stream on Saturday, there's no more stream until the next deadline, basically. But I don't always do a Saturday reaction. Sometimes it's Sunday. It depends on when I'm available. I was able to get home just in time to kind of do a late stream. And people just prefer these Saturday ones in terms of the viewership and stuff. So that's why, when possible, I will do it. Is picking Pape Sarr over Kudus a good enabler? Well, he does have DEFCON potential. And over the summer, he has shown more attacking threat. But I think Spurs will sign an attacking midfielder. And I think Sarr will drop to the bench very soon. Kudus will be more nailed on over the course of the season. He'll get more goals and assists. So I still think Kudus is worth the extra millions. For Gameweek 4, should sell Wood for Ekitike. Wood plays Arsenal. Ekitike plays Burnley. Yes, and for Gameweek 3, you'd rather have Chris Wood. But sometimes it's not about the fixtures, mate. We can get some massive surprises and, you know, some players are just fixture-proof, to be fair, but on paper, that looks very solid. Wood destroyed me last season. Pause. I might sell Palmer even if it's not ideal. I want Chris Wood, even if I don't get points from him, it's all right. Yeah, if, for example, Watkins got injured, or I just thought that, you know what, I hate Watkins, I want to get rid of him, Chris Wood is one of the first names I turned to, and he was one of my heroes last season, and I definitely lacked a lot of FPL heroes. Have Palmer and Saka, what should I do? Wait for more information, which I said before. I think Saka will miss Gameweek 3. With Palmer, there is a bit more optimism there, but he obviously had some injury problems throughout the week, and it wasn't worth risking him yesterday. But yeah, I could see a world where you replace both of them with the likes of Gordon and Bruno, or maybe you go to a Salah structure if you don't have him already. I'm praying for a Salah blank. And by the way, that's not going to happen. Salah's not scoring a hat-trick tomorrow because he plays on Monday. Yeah, that was a dickhead comment by me. Kevy says, cheers for the long stream, mate. Best of luck tomorrow. Thank you very much. I need it in FPL, and you're doing very well so far. Can you show the FDR? I did show it earlier, mate, but I'll show it one more time. And if you watch the deadline stream, you will also see it. But Arsenal, Brighton, Burnley, Everton, Chelsea are in the bottom 5. And if we look at the bottom 5 team, sorry, the top 5, Aston Villa are still there despite a terrible start to the season, no goals scored. Wolves, Spurs, Leeds, and Nottingham Forest are in there in the other upper echelons. Good night, chat. Take care. Thank you, Safir. Great stream, Dylan. Good luck with the remaining games. Have a good night. You too, mate. Looking more like Jackson and Cuckoo at Villa rather than Asensio, etc. Yeah, that is... Oh, dear. Yeah, things are getting heated in that derby. I'm not even sure what to make of that, to be honest, but that might actually put me off the likes of Watkins and Rodgers a little bit more. Asensio would be the kind of ideal signing for them. He obviously performed at the back end of last season too. Native Faith says, is 5 points better than Dewsbury Hall at this current moment? I think so, but we'll see how that ages tomorrow. What time and day is the deadline stream? It's on Saturday, so next week at 11 AM in the UK, so I'll be going live around 9 AM. Why would anyone be expecting anything from Watkins versus Palace? Well, because Watkins has an okay record against them, and he is fixture-proof. He's just had a bad start to the season. Just because he blanked twice doesn't mean he'll never score again. OGC, I answered your question, so I'm not going to do that again, mate. Sorry. Top 5 captains instead, if not on Salah next week. Yeah, I think Bruno Fernandes would be up there for sure. Chris Wood, Haaland, Palmer if he's fit. I still think Salah's up there, to be honest, but if you're looking to go a bit elsewhere, Joao Pedro would be an outside shout in the top 10, but he's obviously template. Another player, that is a bit of a difficult one. Just trying to think of something a little bit left field. But yeah, let's go back to my team for one last time, for those that aren't aware. And thank you to those that tune in today. Like the video, subscribe, all that good stuff. It is greatly appreciated. Let's get this video to as many likes as possible. 300 plus would be brilliant. And we still have over 300 watching. And it's 11 PM in the UK. We're approaching midnight. So I think since the Club World Cup, I've been getting used to these late night shenanigans. But yeah, I think I had to go for something a little bit different. Game week 3, captaincy. Yeah, one of Cunha and Boomer would certainly be up there. Yeah. Decent options. Richarlison against Bournemouth is okay. But yeah, I think I would say without Salah, Palmer if he's fit, Haaland, Bruno Fernandes, Anthony Gordon would be a consideration for me. And Chris Wood. So that's a rough top 5, but that's why it's worth waiting for the next deadline stream, because that's where I'll be having a definitive list. It will be much better than what I just talked about. So if you haven't already, you know what to do. Like the video, subscribe, hit the notification bell, all that good stuff, so you're always up to date with my content, whether it's for FPL or UCL Fantasy. Yes, we are reaching the end because I've reached 3 hours in this stream after a mammoth 3.5 hour stream yesterday. Thank you very much, Stig. I'll call you the Stig. Your face looks like David De Gea, bro. You're not the first person to say that. Even my mum has said that, but I appreciate it. He's a good goalkeeper. Thoughts on Elanga? I wouldn't invest in him in FPL per se, but I get it because he does face Leeds next and his pace will cause a lot of teams problems. So it's not a bad shout, to be honest. I don't think it's like a skip or like he's a terrible option. I just prefer Anthony Gordon, especially if he plays on the left in the future. Thank you very much, Ashwin. We'll talk more about this in future streams. Yeah, I would look to sell Frimpong, but your options might be limited, at least for a free transfer. Maybe you want to go to Daniel Munoz for the long-term fixtures. I wouldn't be buying Delap, to be honest. I think Joao Pedro is the one still. Jordan says, thanks. I just did Saka and Fulkrug to Fernandes and Joao Pedro. As a duo, it is an upgrade, and Saka does face Liverpool anyway. I don't think he'll play against them in Game Week 3, so it is a nice set of transfers. I have Arias too. Should have wildcarded. Well, you still could wildcard in Game Week 3 or free hit. There is still time to reverse certain things. Yeah, Chris Wood is fixture-proof, but West Ham is just a brilliant fixture in general for anybody. Thank you, H. Lehman. Thanks for these streams, Dylan, and answering questions. Have a good night. Likewise to you. And thank you to Linus J, a member of the channel. Buy yourself a drink, Dylan. You deserve it after the stream. I hate to disappoint, but I bought a lot of drinks earlier. That's probably why. Yeah, well, just a different Dylan, I guess, today. But I very much appreciate the super chat and your support throughout the years. And good luck for the rest of Game Week 2. And hopefully we have everything set in motion with the right transfers and ideas for the upcoming deadline, and I'll be talking about that in my upcoming videos. Thank you very much, Linus J. Yeah, thank you, Kevy. The Stig. You don't look like De Gea? You tripping? Well, people have said McAllister, Marco Reus 10 years ago, and I think I look more like him back then. Maybe not so much now. Basically, any blonde guy I've been compared to from football. I mean, that's what my friends do, so there you go. Having Bruno and Sesko tonight will prove that he deserves. Well, Sesko might not start. I wouldn't rule it out, but yeah, Fernandes is my favourite United attacker. This is my Gameweek 3 team, says FPL Glory. Yeah, it's looking good. I mean, we'll talk more about this in the next stream, but I'm not a big fan of the double Spurs defence, despite their recent returns. I think that could cause some problems for you very soon. Yeah, if Palmer's out, I'd look to go to Fernandes as a kind of like initial idea, but you've also got Gordon. Even Elanga's not a bad shout, as someone else mentioned, but yeah, it's more so for me Fernandes or Gordon at the moment. And I would actually look to sell Gyökeres for now and go to Chris Wood. That would be my initial reaction to you. Yeah, Twisted Parky says looks more like McAllister. I was literally walking in the streets going to the gym, and I had Argentina like trousers, and then someone saw it, then looked at me and was like, "Oh, that's McAllister." And then someone else, like a mutual friend of mine, yeah, basically said the same thing. He's a United fan, called me McAllister. There you go. Time for a hot chocolate. No, I'm gonna drink the rest of my water. I haven't drank enough. I'm gonna eat pizza and probably have another beer. I've had a lot of them today, but I'm still here. Not getting cancelled just yet, and never will, hopefully. Why am I saying that? I'm just jinxing myself. Blonde guy, you're not blonde. Well, I've got like brown, blondish hair. I was probably more blonde in the past. You probably can't really tell with the lighting I've got, but there you go. Time to start doing hair flicks on stream. Yeah, I'm not Gyökeres. That's another player, by the way, I've been compared to by a friend of mine who compares me to any Austrian, whatever, German, Spanish, Welsh. Yeah, any European, basically. Good night, everyone. It has been a blast for the past 3 hours answering all your questions. All your support is definitely much appreciated. I'll see you very soon. The next stream will be next Saturday, and that will be an early one at around 9 AM in the UK. And there is plenty of FPL content in the meantime, and keep your eyes peeled for use of your fantasy content with the return of the Champions League.